Welcome back to CHGO Bears After Dark, presented by Circa Sports. It is officially draft week, ladies and gentlemen. It's the final countdown to draft day coming up here on Thursday. The Bears, we all know what they're doing with the number 1 pick. Tonight's show will be about what they're going to do with the number 9 pick. Joining the show once again is Shayne Marsaw from the Tape Never Lies Network. But for the first time, making his first appearance here on CHGO Bears After Dark is my guy, Draft Dr. Phil Ottochian, the man that is the reason that all of you have to put up with me on a weekly basis talking Chicago Bears football on the podcast airwaves. So, Phil, you are to blame. How are you doing tonight?
Dr. Frankenstein is doing well.
Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed. I was told Mariano was going to be here.
Nope. They did the afternoon shift while I was golfing. Mariano and Mark Carmen and Adam Hogue will be back tomorrow. We got some special guests coming up tomorrow at noon. So you're stuck with me tonight, gents. With draft coming up, in my opinion, nobody does it better than you two. I know. I know from a firsthand experience just how invested you guys are in the NFL draft every single year, front to back. You guys do just such a great job and in-depth coverage all the way to the final whistle, going all the way till Saturday. And certainly not exactly my wheelhouse. So this offseason wanted to bring on some different people that could bring some really good insight. And with the draft just a few days away, wanted to bring on my two guys to help educate our fans and even give me a little bit of an educational lesson here tonight, just so I'm ready for our draft party on So
I got to talk about more than second round centers tonight.
Yes. So let's get into it, because we got a pretty long show. This probably will go a little longer than our normal Bears After Darks. If I had to guess, with between me and Phil, we can fill up an hour pretty quickly. So
pretty easy, man. It's like Caleb Williams' ability in the pocket. It's pretty easy and fluid, despite sources.
Well, I mean, Phil, if you want, give me your if you want to kind of give, because we're going to talk about the number 9 pick, and what we're going to do is each of us have a list of our top 10 options, and we're going to go through them, each guy from 10 to 1, and kind of give an explanation once we get to the number 1 option for each of us. Why we kind of have them ranked the way they are. But I guess I'd be remiss, Phil, if I didn't ask you, because me and Shayne have talked a few times here on the show about, the future of the Chicago Bears, specifically Caleb Williams, but we haven't heard your thoughts, at least on these airwaves. Obviously, you're talking a lot about it on the Tape Never Lies Network, but why don't you give some of our viewers, if they're not familiar with what you've been saying about your anticipation and expectations and excitement for one Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to last year, my analysis of Justin Fields was taking in a way where people were attacking me and what have you for my truth with the tape. And he was an average to below average quarterback. And last year, when we had the first overall pick and me and Shayne were doing all the film studies, I was saying, if you're a real GM, you have to do your due diligence with Bryce Young, CJ Stroud and company. And, and Shayne, to his credit, was pointing the finger at, well, if you do take a trade down because you're giving Justin Fields another year in this system to try to assess him, then you're getting an extra first round pick for who next year? Because my thought and statement on our networks, and all our fans know this, was that if Caleb was in the draft last year, I'm trading Justin Fields and taking him number 1 overall then. So after watching Fields and we catch up, and I say it again, that it's average to below, and you're got to get this kid. He's the best quarterback I've ever scouted. And I scouted Peyton Manning and all the way through. I put him at the top, and all of the manipulation, all of the grifters now, Greg, I'm using your word, for you. I've backpedaled and gone this way. I just am not going to let it go because Chicago's in the Mega Millions Powerball winning category. They did exactly what Shane said. This GM deserves so much props for what he does. And I'll give him props for having the cojones. Can I swear on this show?
You are allowed to swear on this show. We do it.
Balls to say I fucked up with Chase Claypool and being a GM and not a politician. And then having the balls to say, I don't care about a fan base's love for a guy. I care about the tape first and foremost. And what's best for our franchise has to come first. And we're dealing with a guy coming out in this draft that is the best that I've ever seen personally. I just put my name to it. I've never manipulated or flip-flopped or removed myself from that. What the NFL said about Justin Fields was what it was. And I've talked about it obviously a lot on our network. And now I'm on the fans' other favorite network, CHGO here. All the real fans of the Chicago Bears that are going to take an analytical and power move on the truth. And that's, I've seen Adam Hogue put his name to it, and you've talked to me about Adam. Take step for step with me. You're upgrading here. And all now the news coming out, Dan Wiederer's article, and then the pivot, all of these things are just box checked. All of our conversations, Greg, me, you, and Shane, I can't be happier or prouder by our analysis and our ability to recognize talent at the quarterback position. I didn't put his fingernails in my tape study. I didn't put how he carries himself and all the his father's words that never were spoken, but somehow got out there. I didn't do any of that. The tape told me what he was.
Right.
When people came with their thing, the Notre Dame game, we demolished that narrative. When they came with he never played well thereafter, we demolished that narrative by showing you the Washington game, where not only does he play amazing, he's absolutely outstanding. And then we demolished the emotion with his mom, because I am a coach and I look at emotion and I embrace that, because winning and having that emotion go hand in hand. There's a reason why there's the Jordan crying emoji, because he actually cares about winning. I talked about this earlier on Big Steve's show, the Bear Down with Big Steve. Jay Cutler probably was the most talented quarterback I've seen in a Bears uniform as far as God-given ability. What he didn't have was the desire to be great, to be a winner. Above all else, be a legend. These things should be applauded.
Yep.
We have ignorant Bears fans bashing this kid openly in public, tagging him in it, trolling him, almost harassing. It's embarrassing at that point. Now you're looking at what Ryan Poles and company did. They blocked out the noise. He said it himself, Greg. And Bears fans, you guys should be waiting on Christmas Day, because you're about to get the best quarterback the Chicago Bears have ever walked through the Hallis Hall doors.
Yep.
Right there, right then and there, right when he walks in, he's the best passer that you have ever seen. I know he's the best I've seen, and I've watched all of them. So here we are, me, you, and Shane, on the precipice of something we've never had before. A dynamic, generational guy that puts winning as his number one priority over MVP awards, over a Heisman Award or anything like that. To have that, that Civil War to me was a joke. I just was getting frustrated and embarrassed by Bears fans, and I just kept preaching the truth. And here we are, the three of us together. I can't wait to take in a game, the three of us watching this, because barring any injury, this guy is going to speak with his game. And I think if you watch the pivot, or if you came over and you were a patron of our network and you watched us break down his tape, and we didn't cherry pick, we didn't pull out highlights or some sort of slideshow presentation. What we did is watched every rep. 2.5 hours. We went back to Oklahoma tape, and we went and skipped to Heisman year and put it on his senior year and destroyed every narrative there.
Yep.
Oh, that's what we wanted to do, because we knew, and Shane and I talked, like, I can't believe we're in this place where we're divided when we should be celebrating together. And I've never refrained from that. Never.
Well, and you've never been shy to step in the trenches and get your, elbows dirty here. And I know you're the same way, Shane. And I know, Phil, you probably should have finished that with, and that is my rant. But that's fine. I'm excited to have you on here. CHGO Bears After Dark. This is like you said, it's a long time coming. We've been waiting for a moment like this, and we've had failed expectations with Mitch Trubisky and Matt Nagy and that core, Justin Fields here recently, and we had a lot of hope, and it didn't quite come to fruition, but maybe third time's a charm here over the last few years, leading to this moment, because we're reminded every year how we passed on Patrick Mahomes as a franchise, and fans have to wear that. And last year, week 4 was probably week 4 was probably one of the lowest moments in Chicago Bears fan history, just to be, embarrassed there in Kansas City with Taylor Swift dancing on our grave with everything else that was going on that week. So now we get a moment in the sun, and off season is for dreaming, but the regular season is for execution. And like you said, Ryan Poles, to put this team in this position, is the guy deserves a ton of credit. Like you said, he's got to own a few mistakes, but he's made more solid moves and very savvy moves than he has mistakes. That's led us to this moment to have an opportunity to have 2 top 10 picks, in a very top heavy draft, where you have a unique draft where there could be 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 5. 3 quarterbacks taken in the top 10. You don't always get that. People say, oh, well, you have that every year. Well, the year Kenny Pickett was drafted, there wasn't a quarterback taken until 20. So no, it isn't every year. And there isn't 3 wide receivers taken every year in the draft. I mean, the Bears could potentially have an opportunity to have the number 1 offensive board off the board and the number 1 defensive player off the board, just like the Houston Texans last year. But Houston had to trade up to have that opportunity, where the Bears, it might come to them. So that's an exciting, thought and opportunity the Bears have in front of them. So, Shane, I say we get into it, because like I said, we've got a pretty, because somebody's joked in the chat, they were like, 10-1, 5-1 works, Braggs. Well, the way I saw it was, if we do 10-1, then we talk about enough players that we're not just talking about why we're ranking them, but we're talking about what they would bring potentially to the Bears. So we don't cut off any names of some players that we'd like to talk about here tonight. But we'll do our best to make sure we run through it. But at the end of the day, this is we have mini camp and all the stuff going on over the summer, but this week is kind of the tipping point here. So if this goes a little longer than some of our normal after darks that you guys are used to, so be it. Want to give you Bears fans as much content this week to consume as you possibly can. And nobody, like I said, does it as good as these guys, breaking down each guy one by one. So we're going to, steal some of their ideas and thoughts right from their educated minds here, talking NFL draft here tonight. So with that being said, like I said, we have 3 different lists. Each of us have our top 10 options. So who do we want to go first? I'll leave it between you two. I'll go last. I'll let you 2 go first, because we're going to.
He wants to poach off our list.
Well, our lists are already made. Graphics are in the box, but we're gonna overlap with most of our players here. So who you want, Phil? Do you want to start with Shayne or do you want to start with yourself? I don't care.
Well, I'm surprised no fan has complained about Shayne being on my left on the screen.
Yeah,
well, because we're always.
We had to balance the talking on each side. So
Shayne's got it.
I'm the median. Yeah, you didn't want to.
So why don't we let the middleman?
Yeah.
Handle it.
All
so
right.
we're starting at 10, correctly?
We're gonna start from 10 and work our way up to 1 with each of us. So we'll try to be quick through this, but at the same time, we can let it marinate as well. You know, Phil and Shayne are on the East Coast, so I'll leave it to them as far as how, you know, tight we keep this show. But at the same time, let's have some fun. Let's talk some drafts. So let's get right into it. Number 10 on your list of the top 10 options at number 9 for the Chicago Bears, Shayne Marsaw.
Yeah, so just I want to preface this, and when I sent you my list, I did not include Marvin Harrison. I know there's going to be some debate here between Phil has a different outlook on Harrison than I do, but I don't expect him to be available at 9, so I didn't even put him on my list, and that's the reason that he's not. So, my number 10
my list, he's saying, because I don't have him over the guys I have on my list.
So number 10 on my list, and that would be so we're doing this from essentially from worst to first, correct?
Correct.
That's how we're doing this. Mine would be Laiatu Latu, and that's obviously pending medicals, and that's a big part. I know myself, I don't think that I could pull the trigger, but if you're basing it just on tape, just on what you see him doing on the field, you remove the medicals from it, he's your top edge in this class to me all day long. Beyond that, and you have a big gaping hole across from Montez Sweat. And one thing that I do want to include here is I think we may have to practice a little bit of patience at this position. Everybody is intoxicated. I understand it. We need an edge in the worst way, but we have to remember, we have to look at 2025, and I'm not talking about the draft. We have 2 picks in the second round, 1 coming from Carolina, and we just made a trade for Montez Sweat in season using a second round pick, and I think that could easily be in play for Ryan Poles again if the draft doesn't fall their way. You know, depending on some guys that can fall. I know we're not going to get into that list so much, but Laiatu Latu, number 10 for me. I think it's pretty simple. I think he comes in, he's your day one starter, and I think his upside is easily all day long a double-digit sack guy. Real nice compliment to Montez Sweat. Has some work to do in the strength department and against the run, but medical red flags are going to tell the tale there.
Yep. All right, so let's get right into it here. And get right to number 9. Latu is 10th off the board here as we work our way up to 1 on Shayne Marsaw's top 10 priority for the number 9.
We're going all through his, then all through mine. Is that how we're doing it?
What do you think? What do you think, Phil? I mean,
we could go back and forth.
All right, let's go back and forth. That's smart. That's smart.
We do all of our 10s, yeah.
All right, we'll do the 10s.
All our 10s.
All right, yeah, that's why you guys are the pros.
Give Greg time to write his down as we're giving him the info that he needs. You guys give me a good question for Coach Eberflus. Heading in right now.
Jackson Powers Johnson at 5. Mate.
All right, number 10, Phil. With your Easter egg drops, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Number 10 for me is also in the same defensive category. Pass rusher Dallas Turner out of Alabama is my 10th choice there. And I'm going by my rankings and how I rank these guys. Dallas, to me, has high upside and a lot of things you like. Can I see the Bears taking him? Absolutely. At 9, he offers that burst, that aggressiveness, heavy hands. I saw Shayne's pick at 10. Latu's tape and length and typewriter feet, as Shayne said, Just that excites me there more than a Dallas Turner. And I wouldn't be disappointed when you give me 10. I think it's a realistic number. I call it a cluster. So I think it's realistic who these cluster of players will be. But it's for the exercise here, based on how I rank these guys in my top 50, Dallas Turner is the 10th choice there.
All right. And then my 10th choice is, and you'll see a theme develop on my end, but
please tell me it's trading it to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yes.
He's
Is just
trade backs.
So the meatball boy priority list starts with JC Latham at 10, but with a trade back. Some of my list, and I gave you guys the option. So if you want to preface any of your guys as that option there, to me, there's a handful of guys I'd be fine with the Bears drafting, but in the scenario that Ryan Poles trades back, whether it's from 13, 14, or 15, I don't want to go too far back. We're not talking Buffalo at 28 or anything like that. But I think they're, a guy like JC Latham, I understand that some people are like, oh, he's a right tackle, and how are you going to make this work with him and Darnell Wright? Again, if the Bears decide to trade back, his name was popping up like a week ago. This is why he's ranked 10th of my 10 options. So if you're getting all the way to the 10th option, something went severely wrong on your draft board if you're Ryan Poles. But I left him there at 10 because, A, if you trade back, I'll be fine if you want to beef up the offensive line. And B, one of my themes is we are going to do everything we can to give Caleb Williams all the talent he needs around him. That is number one priority. And I know Chubbs is in our chat and he's our guy. He's been riding with me for a long time here, and he was yelling at me last night in my DMs. He's got a $2 super chat here, right on cue, saying if Sweat gets hurt, we again are a historically bad defensive line. And it's a fair point. If Montez Sweat goes down, they don't have an edge rusher once again, like last year. And we saw how fast,
say that at almost any position. I mean,
you could say, yes,
right.
If your tackle gets hurt, if they don't draft a tackle and Darnell Wright gets hurt, if DJ Moore gets hurt, but I understand his point at the end of the day.
No, it's valid. 100%.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for me, I'm not saying that edge rusher is not a priority. It 100% is, Chubbs, but for me, number one priority, you got to have a number one priority, and that is doing everything you can to surround Caleb Williams with all the talent he possibly needs. He's a rookie quarterback, one of the most dynamic rookie quarterback prospects in NFL history. Will he become what the hype is? We'll find out. But at the end of the day, that's what he is from a prospect standpoint. And you're putting him into an amazing situation here, but don't take it for granted. Don't rest on your laurels. Go get more. Say, this isn't, you think we got a lot around him? Well, here you go. Here's another. That's the kind of approach I'm hoping Ryan Poles takes here tonight. So that's my number 10 option as we round back over to Shane here for number 9 as we work our way to our number 1 options.
So number 9 for me is going to make Phil's head explode. It's offensive tackle Olu Fashanu from Penn State. Love, former, there it is. There's the picture right there. If you don't know, that's Caleb Williams and Olu Fashanu in high school teammates. So, I mean, CHGO would have a whole friggin' 3-hour segment during the day on that, I think, Phil, right?
I definitely will. Well, and not to mention, I had 3 predictions leaving the combine, and that was the Bears were going to draft Caleb Williams, they were going to franchise tag Jalen Johnson, and they were going to draft Olu Fashanu. So if they get that, then I look really smart. So we'll do a 3-hour show about how smart I am every time I leave the combine.
Yeah, just to get back to Olu, I mean, he comes out last year. He's OT1 for, I think, everybody on the board. And when you hear people talk about, paralysis by analysis, and, we saw that with Caleb Williams. Everybody's in love with these guys during the season. You get your draft slotting solidified, and then the nitpicking begins. And why this is why
tear down.
the tear down starts. And I think that Olu has fallen into that a little bit. I just have some offensive tackles that I like more. Size 6'6", 319, very young, just turned 21 years old. So that's, to me, that's a major positive. I like the guys that are still young in their ascension in the league. I always hate bringing in aged rookies, that are 24, 25, and especially in round one, then you're talking about a 28 or 29-year-old guy when you're picking up that fifth-year option. So I don't like that. The biggest thing with me with Olu is I get a little bit of Braxton Jones in terms of his raw strength. I think he's got the frame. I think he's got a much better frame than Braxton does. His legs are bigger, so that gives me some positivity there. He's going to fill out, and with him being so young, I think he can easily do that. But for me, it just pushes him down because there's guys above him that I like better. Now, I don't think I'm breaking any news here, Phil. He's your top offensive tackle by a pretty good margin.
Offensive tackle in this draft.
Yep.
My opinion.
And so that's just kind of where I am. I mean, to save a little time, I don't need to keep repeting myself.
Well, let me ask you guys.
And he's true blue. He's not a guy. People are. I know when Phil and I were doing a show with former Bear Steve Edwards earlier, and we brought up the name J.C. Latham, and everybody's like, he's right tackle only. Well, he's not. He's not right tackle only. Olu Fashanu is born and bred left tackle, day one, tried and true, no question about it. He's the easily, probably, Phil, I'm sure you would agree, the truest left tackle out of all of these guys,
without a doubt.
Yep.
He's the closest thing to God, I just lost his name down in Houston that I've seen. What's his name in Houston? My guy, the smoker. Smoker.
Yeah, somebody in the chat.
The gas mask.
The gas mask. Why am I? We're all drawing a blank at the same time.
Somebody in the chat will have it.
Thank you, Axeman. Yeah. Laramie Tunsil.
It's not like we have 10,000 names bouncing around in our heads in different positions.
I see them, and I had it in my head.
Yep.
Yeah. I obviously will speak on Olu a lot more, but
a little bit later.
Yeah, he's definitely.
Let me ask you this, because Shane, you mentioned, everybody's starting to nitpick, and one of the bigger nitpicks that people talk about is his hand size, and Hippie Nerd asked that. Is it just the fact that his hands, and more importantly, I think what I want to ask you guys is, and I'll start with you, Phil, like the fact that he does have smaller hands, does that concern you in any way, shape, or form?
We had Olin Kreutz on with us last week. He said absolutely not. Big Steve said no. Does it to help you have bigger hands? Yeah. I mean, but some people need that. He's been his whole life living with his hands and putting out tape that shows it. That's where a lot of these
never gave up a sack in college.
Right. These magicians known as fraud boys out there, blog boys, come up with these things. And listen, I just watched the tape. When an offensive tackle can have an outside 9 and an inside shade 1, and that offensive tackle is asked to cut off that inside shade 1, there's maybe in the NFL 2 people that could do that. Olu Fashanu is doing it against Iowa, doing it against Michigan. There's plays on there that you can't just excuse. His hand size didn't hinder him to do that. He's getting inside and scoop blocking. I mean, his tape, we just broke down J.C. Latham last night, and there is some great moments for him, right? He is big, athletic, way more athletic than I thought. Way more. I believe he can play over at left tackle because you brought Latham up, Greg. But Fashanu is so much polish. Like he's the quintessential left tackle, and he is way better than Braxton Jones is now.
Yeah.
So there's your
all day.
there's
That's
your click.
upgrade.
That's your upgrade.
And Phil, I think it's important here too, because I'm obviously looking at the chat and reading some of the reactions.
We can't click on.
Yeah, these are our top 10s for a top 10 pick.
Every one of these guys are
every one of these guys. That means we're very, very high on. Yes. By the way,
I want to be clear. We're not
in any of this, and it shows you how amazing of a position that you're in at number 9.
Right. Yeah.
None of mine are trade down. Just to be
none
clear.
of mine are either.
All of these, the 10 names that I have, I would walk away with Caleb Williams and this name and be ecstatic. That's how I looked at my 10.
And I went to a different place. So
that's fine.
That'll lead me to my 9th guy here. Just to keep things going. Fuanga. I've been arguing with people exactly how it's pronounced. That Dane Brugler came out and said it is Fuaga in his Beast Guide. So I'm going to stick with Fuaga. I've got him at 9, but again, another guy that if I'm going to take a guy like Latham or Fuaga, as a player, to add to the offensive line, I would like to trade back. Then I'm getting the most value out of what I have at 9. If you trade back to 13, 14, or 15, you end up with this guy.
10?
What's that?
What if he goes 10?
Well, then I've got a few other options on a trade back. So somebody is
and where are you playing him?
Somebody,
where are you playing Fuaga?
Again, if you trade back to 15,
yes,
and all of my 10 options are all 9 other options are off the board, and you end up with this guy at 15 and an additional second round pick, or even more than just a second round pick, then I'm getting the most out of what I want there. Maybe I should have flipped Latham and Fuaga, but what I like about Fuaga is he's a lot like Darnell Wright in that he plays nasty. And so, yes, there would then be a decision that would have to be made. Are you moving Darnell Wright over to left? And I would not want to do that.
I wouldn't either, but I'm not playing Fuaga offensive tackle.
So
I'm at.
Well,
he's
and
a
then
guard to me, and
so then
he has the makings to me of an elite level guard. I see some, for me, big issues at offensive tackle.
Well, the one thing that does concern me having
upper body stiff.
Well, I was gonna say, and the other thing that concerns me being not the offensive line guru by any means, but I can just remember when we drafted who was the offensive lineman with the stick legs? His legs. Gabe Karimi. And I don't know if this picture isn't doing Fuaga any justice here, but when I put this picture in, I was like, man, legs aren't like you compare anybody to Latham and they look a lot smaller, but at the same time, I'm looking at him and it did give me a little bit of flashbacks to Gabe Karimi. As
Adam
far
Hogue
as that
slip
build.
You a 50 and tell you to put him in your top 10 list?
He did not. And for a while there, he was the top offensive tackle on Adam Hogue's board for his Bears 100 draft guide, which they are finishing tonight. Right. I'm actually reading them, having a discussion about it here right now. So if you become a diehard here at CHGO Bears, you can see that full Bears 100 draft guide and see where Adam Hogue has his tackles ranked. I think he has adjusted it since when he did have Fuaga at number OT1 in his draft board. So we'll see. But again, I understand the points. And then the other aspect of it, then if you're going to say he could be an elite level guard, well, there is no guarantees Tevin Jenkins is making it through a 17-game season healthy. In fact, I could put good money on the fact that he probably won't. As much as we would love for him to do that, just adding more offensive line depth is important, to this team. So to me, again, just based off of the trade back, you get back into the second round, you're adding more depth to the offensive line, you're giving more protection around Caleb Williams. Those are the reasons why he made it to my list and maybe not a defensive player of that Chubbs would have had in there is basically my thing. So let's round back here to Shane. And you can give us your number 8 pick here.
I didn't go 9.
Yeah, Phil's got to go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I skip you?
He's new at this, Phil. We'll give
okay.
him a break.
This is
Yeah,
the most detailed I've been in a while.
Counting is super hard, especially when you're doing it backwards. But yeah, Phil.
Especially when counting can be very hard if you're on the golf course with me and I've had a few drinks. Now go ahead, Phil. I apologized. You
shouldn't drink before these shows, Gregory. For me, my number 9 is Joe Alt. Joe Alt. A lot of people love Joe Alt. Are going to be upset here, but for me, the 6'9" frame and that tall length. Listen.
Look how big he is in that picture.
He's a big man, and
Jesus Christ,
a lot of big offensive tackles for me. Watching him, he kind of doesn't fall into the line like Nate Solder and some of the taller guys. I don't see the polish that I want to see. Not that he's young, so it's going to be there. I just don't want to take a chance on a taller offensive tackle. I see him struggle a little bit keeping the weight on his inside foot, and he does struggle with some hand placement issues, but all that stuff could be cleaned up. Again, we're picking at things. The height gives me pause at left tackle. I want to see him succeed, but those taller guys always make me nervous there. Again, if they pick him, am I going to be unhappy? No. That's why I have him here though at 9. I just have other guys ranked higher than Joe Alt, and Shane already told you Olu Fashanu is my number 1 offensive tackle in this whole draft. And for Nick, I don't scout, and you never should, by the school. You just look at the talent of the player. So you can find a great offensive lineman at Newton College, or you could find one at Ohio State or Pepperdine or wherever they are. You want to see their ability to move people, and there's no doubt Joe Alt is a top 10 prospect, but for me, I have other guys that I would like in this, at 9 than him. So there you go.
All right. Now we'll get back over to Shane and get the train back on the tracks here. So go ahead, Shane, with your number 8 option.
And just one thing that I want to add to Phil's assessment of all, I think it's important to remember that he's been an offensive tackle for 3. He was a tight end when he came to Notre Dame. So when Phil said he's lacking polish, I think that's probably expected a little bit. The upside is there, but I mean, I agree with Phil's assessment. I'm way higher on Alt.
Well, and we'll get
we don't agree we don't work at the same network.
Yeah, sorry, Mike Brez, wherever the hell you are now. That's
he's in Bible study.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead, Shane.
Jesus ain't saving him. Anyways. So my number 8 guy is Troy Fautanu, the offensive tackle from Washington. Now it looks a little sloppy there, but
Greg gives him the worst pick.
Yeah. Greg's like, this picture makes me feel much better about myself.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with it. Phil pointed out that we had Olin on, and Phil, I think you'll agree with me when Olin was talking about Fatanu, he lit up. Now there is, and again, this is risky to even say, but there is some rumor out there that he has been medically flagged.
Oh, so really?
If you see him drop on draft day, and again, just so everybody knows, this is
out of curiosity, who's that rumor from? Is it like, from a source?
Yeah, it wasn't a Twitter, source or anything like that. But yeah, there's been some talk, because the rumor was that Latu's has checked out and Fatanu was in there with, I believe his was a knee issue.
Okay.
Gary Ross is saying it was from Albert Breer.
Okay, so then that's legit. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, and this is the thing. We don't have access to medicals. We don't get to sit down with these guys one-on-one. and speak, because character also is a big part of this. Based on tape, and that's what we do at TTNL. This guy is, I don't even know the proper terminology to use with him. He's like a magician out there, just with his size and the way that he moves, and he's extremely athletically gifted. And I'm assuming this is a guy that played multiple sports and excelled in all of them. But just real back to Olin real quick, Phil. Olin, and that's Olin's school, but he lit up talking about the kid and what he saw on tape. I think he's been a guy that early on in the process, not a lot of people were talking about in the range of where Chicago is. I know at one point, who was it? I think Brad Biggs, maybe a couple of weeks ago, had the Bears trading down maybe one spot or two spots and taking Fashanu. But to me, this always comes back to Braxton Jones. Braxton Jones, to me, on a good team or on a playoff team, is a swing tackle. Can he play guard? I happen to not think I don't think Braxton Jones is a guard. He's not good enough to prevent you from drafting an upgrade in any of these guys that we're talking about tonight. And Greg, you've been around long enough, and I know Phil and I have been too. We've talked about it forever. The offensive line has been dismissed in Chicago for so long. And I mean, way back to Chris Williams, who was a medical red flag. Gabe Karimi had some issues, medically.
Yep.
And the Bears overlooked those. And they can't be overlooked. But again, based on tape, this kid really has everything that you want to see. And I know some people are talking about putting him at offensive guard. To me, he can play left tackle all day long.
I think he could play every position on the line.
Yeah, all five. I totally agree, Phil. And
it would be a work for center, but I think he has the ability to do it.
You don't think
that's how talented he is?
He'd be better than any center we had on the roster last year.
Oh, without a doubt. And I wanted to clear up that center thing real quick. Listen, just want to clear another thing up on another network. If the Bears signed Ryan Bates to a contract, they identified him as an upgrade to what it is they had and identified him as a starter. Then the Bills match. The Bears trade for him now. Yeah. So not only did they try to sign him, they've traded for the guy that they came up with the contract for. He's your starting center. Stop. Right. And we broke him down with Big Steve Edwards, and his tape is really good at both guard and center, but he's going to be your center. So that alleviates something. They also signed a backup plan at center if there was an injury that with the kid Shelton. So we'll alleviate those two things. But Troy Fashanu is outstanding, man. He's really good.
Yeah, 6'4".
We'll talk about him too with me.
Right. 6'4", 317, and this goes back to my other thing. He is an older prospect. He's going to be, I believe, 24 in season. So to me, that's a
look at Greg with graphics and stuff. He's growing up.
I'm not sure if you were in the text thread earlier, but he was the guy crying that we didn't have our list in time, so he could do.
I did. I responded.
Graphics. Yeah.
Yep. So, I wanted to show off a little bit here tonight. Give everyone a good show. Where we have been waiting so long for this draft.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, we've all been through the trenches here this offseason and going to battle, and now we get to celebrate this week. And so I wanted to make sure we had some fun tonight.
And it's important too. And Olin brought up a great point on Twitter. This is probably about a month ago, and we talked about it last week when he was on with Phil and I. Is in the NFL season, Bears fans and everybody are, this offensive line sucks. They're horrible. The quarterback's getting killed. And then when the rubber meets the road, when it's time to actually select one, it's, oh man, we got to get that wide receiver. They're so fun. I can put them on my Madden team. My kids are going to love it. I'm going to love it. They're fast. They're huge. And listen, man, I'm all about Caleb Williams is the haul. We said that on TTNL before anybody did. He is the haul. trade down was not the haul. Let's keep that haul upright. You don't need to just get him a wide receiver. Give him the best possible options of protectors in front of him. It's going to make your football team better.
Yeah, and Olin's right in that regard. I fall victim to that every year in the draft. Every year I want skill. I was talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba last year. Dumb. But that I'm always looking for the skill. I'm not gonna make any bones about that. I even was talking about Bijan Robinson for a little bit. Like I always want the Ferraris, but you're right. You gotta have that insurance policy on your Ferrari if you want to drive a nice car.
Yeah, you want to drive that Ferrari in February, right? Going to CHGO Plaza.
Yes.
Where you were, yeah, probably dinging up a little bit. Let's put a plow on that. Let's put a fucking plow on your truck and get there, right?
Yeah. All those dudes that love these giant trucks apply that same thinking to it's not just cliche to say it all starts up front. It's the truth. So there's a lot of merit to it.
That being said, though, and I've got no problem if they draft an offensive tackle, left tackle with their number 9 pick. No issue with it at all. In fact, that was what my gut feeling was leaving the combine, was that's what they were going to do. Now that we're getting closer and I am dreaming about some wide receiver dreams, there's no question I fall into this trap every year, just like every year at training camp, I fall into the trap of falling in love with some wide receiver that isn't going to make the roster. I do it every single year. It's my favorite position in football. And so, but at the same time, when we talk about
dominating there for a while, Greg,
10 days of domination, we will never forget it. Build the statue. But at the same time, when we talk about adding to the offensive line, and I do think it would be a smart move to do it, especially pairing a rookie left tackle for the next 5 years with your rookie quarterback for the next 5 years and Darnell Wright for the next 4 years. The offensive line did not play poorly last year.
Well,
right.
And now you have a quarterback that presumably is going to get the ball out better and could make your offensive line look a lot even better than it did last year. They already ran the ball well the last 2 years, and that's why they kept Chris Morgan around and made him the run game coordinator. So, I understand some of the people are saying Braxton Jones is fine. Don't replace him. You don't need to. I can see both sides of that argument because Braxton Jones could all of a sudden improve just by the fact that your quarterback has improved this year. But I see both sides of the coin.
Let me ask. So you like Fuaga? If Caleb Williams can improve Braxton Jones, what is he going to make Fuaga look like? Who's more physically gifted as an offensive lineman, or an Olu Fashanu? You have to think of it from that lens also. He can make Braxton Jones from average to above average. He can take a guy like Olu Fashanu as a rookie from good to foundational block on your line for the next 12 years. So you have to look at it's a two-way street for sure. It's a great point, but it does work both ways.
Now, Eric Bochan in the chat's asking, did Fields holding the ball too long make Braxton look worse than what he is? Yes. I think it's a fair question to ask, but at the same time, when you're dealing with a guy like Caleb Williams, who I do believe can play in structure a lot better than some people think he can, and fights to stay in the pocket.
It's on the tape.
Right.
It's not.
It's on. I understand that. But at the same time, he does get out of the pocket. Even the way he climbs the pocket, he's moving around. He's, dancing. He's moving up, and he does fight to stay in the pocket. But
yeah,
you've got to be on your toes and be ready for that quick change of direction with this quarterback as well. So, whatever Braxton Jones is as an offensive tackle, it's like, it's not going to be like, because Justin Fields got out of the pocket all the time, and that would make life difficult, or hold the ball on too long, and that would make his offensive line at times not look as good as maybe it could be. But at the same time, Caleb Williams will get out of the pocket, will move around in the pocket. That's going to challenge your offensive tackles to have to make some pretty athletic plays as well too.
I think what Caleb does out of the pocket is look downfield, where Justin is trying to make decisions that he won't make, which he gets into
His
just
first
escape.
option was to look for an exit, not for
Yeah,
a pass.
he just looked to escape. That's why when people put these PFF stopwatches, they both have the most time. Okay, when you're watching tape, you see what Greg was talking about. He has a terrible offensive line his senior year, and he's backing up, creating them, trapping them to get into a position where he can escape them, but his head doesn't go, okay, I'm now going to juke them and go right so I can run. I'm going to juke them, go right so this guy could pick up this block for me so I can throw. And that's where these statistical guys and analytics don't always, well, I would say 25% of the time, tell the truth. The tape tells you Caleb Williams is going to help Braxton Jones. Yes. But to Shane's point, you're always trying to prove where Braxton struggles is with bull rush. All of us know that. So guess what? Every defensive coordinator in the NFL knows that. So that's why you're trying to improve, where somebody like Fashanu or Alt or Latham is going to give you steady, strong base and help you in the run game as well as the pass pro that he's going to get there. So, you know, it's the way. I always say this too, Greg, the Bears and every team in the NFL, they're going to put their rankings, they're going to put their needs, because nobody's telling you the truth, because all of them are putting their needs up there, because that's how you have. And then you're going to kind of correlate them in boxes based on blue chip or,
well, a lot of people, they'll default to saying, hey, we're going to go BPA, but what they end up defaulting to is BPA at a position of need.
Exactly. And flex digs is 100% right. And I said this, Flex, showing everybody, like, let's stop creating some PFF gibberish and bullshit. Let's actually watch. This undrafted's getting the ball out in time. He's being protected. And when you looked at it, it was just a correlation of a lot of things. But at the end of the day, it's average quarterback passer versus amazing highlight runner. The highlight runner became an ESPN highlight reel story, and everyone, wow. But that story ended there. Caleb Williams is a highlight passer of the football. He's a highlight scrambler to continue time for himself to find an open man. You've seen it over and over and over. We didn't see that with Fields. He had 5 first-round picks in front of him. So, and I'm talking receiver and offensive line that he played with. Caleb Williams had 1. That's a lot different. So when people start throwing that stuff out there, you have to look at it truthfully. And I know we're getting long, so we'll go to the next guy.
Let's make sure everybody's hanging out. Hit that like button. Appreciate everybody hanging out, and thank you once again to Phil and Shane for loading it up here for this week and giving everybody as much content as they possibly need. But yeah, let's get to your 8, and then let's try to get through the next few a little quicker, because as I said, we're gonna overlap our players.
Shut the fuck up.
Well, and we're gonna.
I didn't even get to talk.
You
got me on the Braxton Jones.
All right.
All right. My 8 is Latu. And when I say the medical puts him here, if it checks out and the Bears take him at 9, I am completely ecstatic, because his tape and his ability correlates with a lot of things I loved about Khalil Mack. There's speed, burst to power that he's able to generate. Now, he's not Mack now yet, but that kind of presence and the opposite of Montez Sweat, there's a never-ending motor to this kid. And you watch his tape, and the foot speed and the athleticism and the agility is all there. And then the finishing dip and bend I mean, this kid's a college kid. He's an older kid. We know the neck issues, but I really like this football player. And whoever gets him is going to get somebody that we look back on. Is going to be very special when it comes to rushing the passer. See, that's short. Nice.
That was good. That was good.
There you
That's
go.
very good. All right. I'll fly through my number 8 here. It's kind of the same reasonings as we continue to go through this. Well, actually, yeah.
I want everybody, but not where we're drafted.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
A trade back.
It'll end soon. But my top half of the draft,
Fat Joe over here.
The top, the trade back, exactly. Byron Murphy, again, a guy that a lot of people are very high on. I'm fine with these types of players, but if we're gonna get them, I'd personally like it more if we end up with this type of player in a trade back. So Byron Murphy gets you that 3 technique. There he is in this picture, chasing down Michael Penix Jr. Obviously will fill a huge need in this defense and only serve to help a guy like Gervon Dexter. You lost, your defensive tackle, Justin Jones, to the Arizona Cardinals, who got some big money, and you see the kind of motor this guy has. But for me, I'm more looking at the offense. If they're going to get an edge or a 3 tech, I'm certainly not going to complain. Like you said, we're picking nits here when we're talking about what we'd prefer, but all of these are good options. And Byron Murphy would be a good option, potentially a great option if he were to work out after you select him. But to me, I am focused on the offense, but at the same time, I'll take a guy like Byron Murphy, but in the circumstance, in the scenario that they've traded back a couple spots and gotten back into the second round, and now you're letting the draft come to you. And if that kind of player falls to you and that's who's top of your board, Ryan Poles, go ahead and select them. So Shane, number 7, my friend.
My number 7 is Dallas Turner. Well, I like him the best of all the guys. Still raw, still very, very young, but very, very explosive. Some people think that he's going to be a 3-4 edge, and I think he can play. Listen, if Will Anderson can play in a 43 with his hand in the dirt, Dallas Turner can too. He didn't start the season off the way that I wanted to see him in Alabama, but if you look at his tape from 2022 to 2023, his strength is leaps and bounds better. And like I said, just turned 21 years old, very, very young. Upside is there. And you put a kid like this with Montez Sweat, just based on the athletes alone, Flus loves those type of guys. The bend, it's not quite Robert Quinn like, but it's pretty close the way that this kid can bend and get around the corner. And he's got the aggressiveness to boot, and he's not afraid to stick his face in there in the run game. And that's a big part of being an NFL player. Some of these guys just want to see quarterback hit quarterback and everything else falls apart, and they don't end up lasting too long. But I know we're all going to be, Phil's talked about him already, and I'm sure I don't know if he's on your list or not, Greg, but yeah, Dallas Turner would be there for me. I think everybody has connected him to Atlanta. Really sounds like that it's potentially not the guy. A lot of smoke around Leatu Latu at 8 if he clears medically, and even Byron Murphy at 8 if Atlanta sticks and picks. So going to be interesting.
The other thing I really want to say, just for novice football people or people that are learning the game or want a 3-4 edge and a 4-3 end, honestly, based on what you're looking for in the NFL,
right,
they're going to both be able to play unless their name is Leonard Floyd. He cannot be a 4-3 end because he's so light and thin and can be moved out of there and rooted out. So he's always going to be outside wide and playing twist and stunt games with him. That's why when you look at this kid, Turner, he is not just an edge in a 3-4. He has power and bend and speed off the explosive power. Watching his tape, there's so much to like about him. The fact that I have him as my 10th in this exercise with you guys is just a showcase of those quarterbacks pushing down this talent here. And I just wanted to clear 3-4 end or edge and 4-3 D end. Khalil Mack can play anything.
Right.
The kid in TJ Watt can play anything. The special ones can play anything. Okay, so don't get that. Oh, he's only a 3-4 end. Well, go to another football channel and talk dumb shit like that. Anyway,
Let's talk
All right,
number 7.
You're number 7, Phil.
Number 7 is Byron Murphy, defensive tackle 3 technique. We broke him down on our draft mob show last night, where we take the all 22 and the coaches tape and showcase all of these players. Every player on my 10 list we've broken down. Byron Murphy is something special, man. When people talked about the kid from Illinois, we took his tape on, and I know I was hoping Corey was here because I was going to give him some shit about Johnny Newton. But Johnny Newton isn't in the first round for me. This kid explodes into the backfield, and there are plays, Greg, where he's double teamed and he's splitting double teams on his knee, squatting up with a rip technique and coming on the backside of an outside zone and being able to get to the tackle. There's things on there that are so elite. There's no possible way you're trade back. I see Trey Tunes in here. So trade back. Greg's Fat Joe song is not going to be able to get you. I think Byron Murphy is going to go earlier than a lot of people expect. And he is the perfect 3 technique that a team like the Chicago Bears have looked for. And, you know, he's really strong at the point of attack. And there's a reason why Texas got to the playoffs. It's him and his partner in crime down there in the middle, Sweat.
Yeah, and if you want to question his strength, a lot of times he played nose.
Oh my God!
We showed at 360 was playing 3 tech.
We showed him playing 0 technique several times, watching him get doubled, and he is locking his arms out, penetrating that deep.
Do you want to tell Greg what a 0 tech is, real quick, before we move on?
No, you don't, because we'll be here all night.
Head up on the center. That's what that is, brother.
All right. Yeah, right over that. No,
right over 0.
Shane did send me the chart. He sent me the chart last year when I honestly asked him, explain the different 5 technique, 3 technique.
My dad did that on our show. It's from Paul Bear Bryant. He created the numbering system. So I'll get you with my dad.
Look at you learn something new every day here with Shayne Marsaw and Draft Dr. Phil from the Tape Never Lies Network. We appreciate them hanging out. We have eclipsed the 1 hour mark, which is normally this is normally when we end our shows here up Bears After Dark. We are going to be going for a little bit longer, probably a lot of bit longer. We'll try to get through our list a little faster here in the second hour. But like I said, trying to give you guys as much draft content as we possibly could. So thank you to you guys for providing that. And also shout out to our guys over at Circa Sports, Shane's favorite part of the show, where we give our great sponsors a nice little shout out. Circa Sportsbook. Make sure you hit up their tight money line splits and low hold models. Games strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use a -115 or -120 split. Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to the other books. Extremely transparent. Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. I encourage all bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps and see for yourself. Compare the lines. No better sports book than Circa Sports. Their customer service is second to none. Real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion. And make sure you hit up and download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you may know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text GAMB to 822-833-234 or visit areyourellywinning.com. And one of those Circa events coming up, obviously, is our draft party. Thursday night is sold out at Joe's on Weed Street. All of this presented by Circa Sports. But Friday night, we'll be back at Joe's on Weed Street with Casa Azul and Collector's Cave. Our guys are bringing out Gary Fensick. So you have a chance to meet him, get an autograph, take a picture, and watch the second and third round live. Corey Wooten will be there both Thursday night and Friday night. We'll be streaming all of this, and you'll have an opportunity to watch the show if you can't join. But if you want to show up, go to allchgo.com/events, and you can come Friday night and continue the Caleb Williams celebration. Once again, shout out to Collector's Cave. Hit up their website at makesigningsfunagain.com. They have a ton of great Chicago sports memorabilia at really affordable prices. So go take a look at some of the stuff they've got in their library. And shout out to them because they're going to be hanging out with us Thursday and Friday and bringing some of their memorabilia out, and Gary Fensick as well. Okay, business is aside. We're moving to number 6. 6 through 3. We're going to go a little quicker here, boys. All right. We're going to try to speed it up a little bit.
Well, we're going to have some repeats, so we don't have to double
That's
down
true.
on the
That's
explanations.
true. So
a trade back.
Yeah.
A trade back.
I think I have one more.
Of course you did.
I knew it was.
Am I at 7 still? I think
I'd love this guy at 9, but if we can come away with him at 10, I'll feel a lot better.
Yep, there it is. Dallas Turner
Look at this guy.
with a trade back.
Trading back everything.
All right. All right. That's it.
We
You've
need
given the
to-
reason with Dallas Turner. I'll take him in a trade back. Now, let's move to 6. Shane.
Trade back.
There's certain guys I'll take on a trade back. There's other guys as we move
We
up
can see
on my
Greg.
board that I won't trade back for, that I'm willing to take at 9. So go ahead, Shane, your number 6 pick, number 6 option for your top 10 options as we get to our number 1 option for the number 9 pick.
Yeah, roll tide. It's J.C. Latham for me.
Here he goes.
Yep. This is my
Roll
number
Tide.
2 offensive tackle overall. Obviously, there is some projection involved in that, but just 21 years old. And this kid, Phil and I were talking about it. I told Phil, he admitted to himself that he needed to look a little bit more. And I think when Phil watches it and justifies what you're seeing, you got to feel pretty good about it. And Phil came away impressed. To me, he's got to be on the same plan as Darnell Wright. Darnell Wright last year was a little bit sloppy. He openly talked about needing to get in shape. He trimmed down, and it benefited his game. J.C. Latham at 342, I think he even played up above that. I think if you can get him down to 328, 330 in that range, I think this kid's got the makings of a dominant left tackle for years to come in Chicago. You give me your 2 bookends with athletic freaks like J.C. Latham and Darnell Wright protecting the franchise, the face of everything that you're going to be doing in Caleb Williams. Sign me up all day long. Love it.
All right, J.C. Latham, roll tide. Big Bama fan here is Shayne Marsaw. Your number 6 pick, draft Dr. Phil.
My number 6 pick is Troy Fautanu of Washington, with probably the worst pick that Greg at Joe trade back. But Fautanu, honestly, that picture is awful. I guess everybody takes an awful pick.
It's all about the angles.
We
I got
saw
a couple of good
Carm's
ones with
angle,
Greg on
right?
my phone.
What was Carm? Shane took
Carm
a
is
screenshot
so
with-
good at finding the most
he had one
endearing combine pictures of me.
Shane took a screenshot of Carm, and he looked like that actor. What was it? It was the weird. It doesn't even look like Carm, but he's in
who
that
was
one angle.
Greg, I texted you that night, and then
Remember that?
you guys
That
were talking
actor?
about it on the show the next day. It was
You guys talked about it.
the guy from Saturday Night Live. What the hell?
Yeah,
was
it
his
was-
name?
Jesus
Who the hell
Christ,
was it?
Greg.
I
You
forget.
guys-
Well, I mean,
We'll figure it out while I'm
Yeah.
talking. And I,
You guys
This
talked
guy-
about it on the show.
this guy's built, and again, the lower body strength, the ass this guy has on him he's explosive into his blocks and cutoffs. He could play every position across the offensive line, and I wouldn't be afraid to put him at center. He could play guard. He could play tackle. Rob Schneider, was it? Somebody he looked like.
It
But
was
the reality of what Fashanu brings to the table at left tackle, I have him as my number 2 left tackle over Alt, who's number 3. And Fashanu does things. And again, Albert Breer is releasing this medical report. We have always been very transparent. We don't get to sit down with these guys. We don't get the medicals unless they're released, which is a bad thing for HIPAA rights. HIPAA rights. So Troy, to me, is going to bring. It was John Lovitz. Give
yes.
Greg Hall
That's
art.
who it was.
It doesn't look anything like Karn, but that angle, like Greg getting Troy, because I was about to say how Troy is just solid. He's just athletic, and his ability there at left tackle. He's probably got the best feet, and that's tough to beat my guy Olu Fashanu. But I would give if I was looking at all of them, I think Fashanu has the best feet out of all of them. So that's my number 6 pick, Troy Fashanu. And I want to say this. I want to clear this up.
You better clear it up.
Clear it up real quick.
Yeah.
I have zero anything against Nick Moriano. I keep seeing that somebody's trolling in the chat. I have told Greg I can't wait to meet Nick Moriano when I go to fucking Chicago.
Well, Nick is
me and Nick are gonna talk.
Well, Nick is working on the Bears 100 right now.
I think he was in the chat.
He is
trolling and pretending they're him.
It's Nick Moriano. He's hanging out in the chat.
I thought maybe he was unblocking. I thought maybe he was unblocking me from Twitter.
Unblock Shane from Twitter, number 1.
I wouldn't blame anyone for blocking you on Twitter. You're mean. You come
Shane
out
admits
that anybody on Twitter.
Smarmy bitch sometimes.
How do you think I started dating your mother? That's where we met.
I can't wait to meet Nick Moriano because, listen, at the old network, we have something that we both dislike, and that's reality. So I can't wait to shake Nick's hand. So, Nick, if you're seeing this, don't listen to what you heard. Let's have Nick on our show.
Well, we can. Nick,
there you go.
Nick is one of the hardest workers and a great teammate. And I know he's finishing up the Bears 100 draft guide right now.
The 100 draft guide.
Bears 100 draft guide, the top 100 options for the Chicago Bears. And you can get that if you become a CHGO diehard as they finish the 100 here in the next hour or two. Very excited to see the reveal of that. So
there you go.
So all right,
to clear that up quick.
All right, real quick.
Okay.
Hey,
isn't that peace?
Bears, yes, Bears Twitter is mending Justin Fields versus Caleb Williams fences, and you're welcome to mend your fences as well. That's very peaceful of you.
You know who I want to talk about?
Here's my number 6 pick.
Trade up.
Trade up, baby. Trade up.
Trey, mix the tape backwards, Trey.
I'm flipping the script, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have the alarm, but we are moving up.
Ring the alarm.
Marvin Harrison Jr. It's not something I would advise, but if Ryan Poles decides he wants to move up and take a huge home run swing for Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm not against it, and that's why it's on my list. Why? Because he's a dynamic wide receiver talent, a guy I have been lusting over the idea of becoming a Chicago Bear for the last 3 years. In the universe that Justin Fields was going to be our franchise quarterback over the next 10 years, that's who I thought we were going to be getting here this year. That didn't work out. But if you were to tell me that the Bears came away with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. in the same draft, I probably will rip my shirt off at Joe's on Weed Street and start rioting in the streets. I will be so excited. And so I am not against a move like that. I wouldn't advise it. I think there are better options on the table, as you'll get into my list. But if he chooses to do that, man almighty, I would have I would salute Ryan Poles for the balls to make a pick like that And anybody complaining after that kind of move would be made, you just don't like having fun, ladies and gentlemen. Marvin Harrison Jr. is electric, great route runner, great hands. It obviously has the lineage with his dad, Marvin Harrison Sr., a Hall of Famer. He's been built for this since he was a young kid, been groomed for this moment. And if he was to be added to Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, that would be the best wide receiver group in the NFL. Not hyperbole. So I would take that all day long with my number 6 pick. Shane, your number 5 pick.
Well, it's a wide receiver, and it's not Marvin Harrison, but it is Rome Odunze. Obviously, tons of talk connecting him at number 9. I can see him going earlier and him not even being available to Chicago at 9. Just a lot to love about this kid. Is he a true burner? No, he's not. He's more than fast enough, but the way that this kid adjusts to the ball, Phil, we had a couple of plays last night that we were looking at, and just the way that he can contort his body at that size, 6'3", 215, another young guy, 21 years old. He's a perfect complement to what you already have on this roster in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And anybody that's against bringing in a wide receiver, I love the top 3 guys. I'm definitely not trading up for one, not in this draft. But we have to remember that Keenan Allen is 32 years old. Keenan Allen is on a 1-year deal. Keenan Allen goes out, and to Chubb's point, Keenan Allen goes out and gets hurt. Then you're back to DJ Moore and Tyler Scott for your franchise quarterback to throw to with your tight ends. So I think that they're in play. I encourage everybody, if you have not seen it, watch NFL Draft Featured on ESPN. They have a spot that they do on Rome Odunze there and his relationship with his grandfather. It's really good, and it just speaks to how he was brought up and where he came from. And no matter where this kid ends up, is just as long as he's not a Philadelphia Eagle, I'm going to be a Rome Odunze fan.
Or a Packer.
Yeah, or a Packer. I just think he fits. And little things like him at the combine wanting to redo the 3-cone over and over and over again to improve his time, that tells you what type of competitor he is and what drives him. Chicago needs more guys like that.
And he was last year, the guy that impressed me the most at the combine was Jordan Addison, with just the way he carried himself and answered the questions. Obviously, we're not like on the field watching the testing. We're just talking to these guys face to face and kind of seeing who they are as a man. And Rome Odunze definitely was one of the more impressive people, if not the most impressive person to talk to. And just the way he carried himself and answered questions, and you could see the maturity and the charisma and the energy. And obviously he has boatloads of talent.
Can we get a breaking news drop?
We can get a break. Well, I don't have a breaking news.
Major breaking.
Hold on. I might hold on. I've got a let me see if I got a nope, I don't have a breaking.
Nick Moriano just unblocked me from Twitter. And
let's go.
We're Twitter friends.
I did that.
Yeah,
I did that. And I'm not stoned. I didn't.
I appreciate
beautiful thing. This is a beautiful thing.
This is a great day.
This is where we're making
PTNL.
Making progress here.
Greg, I created Greg.
Changing for our Bears.
Greg has brought us all together.
And Greg's gonna be on this show for 3 hours tonight, like the good old
You
day.
think these fans don't want? I mean, you're acting. This is like easy for us. We already did a 2-hour show before.
But you forget back when I was the chatterbaiter, as we used to call it.
Yes, the chatterbaiter
on the old network, and you guys would do 4-hour shows. I was in the background. I wasn't
waiting
on the show for all 4 hours.
Well,
I could
you were
sit
always.
in my
Sometimes
garage.
you got brought out front when you didn't want to be.
I could sit.
That was a classic.
I'd sit
moment.
in the backstage in my garage, and I'd be smoking weed while you guys talked football. I didn't have to do it the entire time. So you guys
you don't have to talk. We can handle it.
Yes, I know you can handle it. All right. So where are we at?
Listen, we are at me now. we're
you
at number 5.
Number 5 for Phil. All right, thank you.
Number 5 for me is my number 1 pass rusher in this draft, and that is Jared Verse, defensive end, length, heavy hands, and heavy finishing power. The ability to rip and get inside, the athleticism there. Bro, this dude is the real deal. I don't know what people are looking at, what tape. I just, from the moment I've seen this guy last season, I'm like, this guy is going to be a superstar in the NFL. Again, his number, his pitch count in the sack department for these stat guys is one thing, but when you watch the tape, he's constantly around creating a messy pocket. And I just think that the reality of this football player being somebody that Eberflus likes is very big. I mean, you look at who they brought in. What do they have? Rasheem Green, and they let Gibson go and picked up the kid from Notre Dame, and he never saw the field. Walker's there. So this is a huge hole on this defense.
I think he would be in Greg's, wet dream of the trade down.
Yes.
No, I do.
He's not.
He's not on my list. I'm not gonna give away the rest of my list, but he's
you have 17 trade backs, so Verse has the same kind of ability as Khalil Mack. You see the one hand jab. He's holding guys with one hand, playing the edge. There's things he does that fit this kind of defensive style that is better than everybody else as well. Khalil Mack obviously is a good comp, as they're saying there. I see it. And listen, he's going to be a superstar in the NFL. You have 3 of them: Liatu Latu, Dallas Turner, and Jared Verse, that I think will be superstar edge rushers, defensive ends in the NFL. Short version. Yep. We had a stopwatch. I'm actually shorter.
You're doing a great job. We're proud of you. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with my scout.
You did have a 12-minute rant to start the show. Yeah,
I did bring Nick Moriano and Shane back together.
Well, so that might be a curse.
You gave me
that might be a curse for Nick, though, because now he's got to deal with Shane sharing pictures and videos of.
Oh me. Yeah, Nick, I'll hit you up on DM. I'll give you all the goods.
Yeah.
The pimple one alone, I think Nick will enjoy.
Yeah, so we see it many a
talking pimple. We should start the draft show tomorrow.
All right. So my number 5 here coming in, Olu Fashanu. No trade back, no trade up. Sticking and picking at 9 for Olu Fashanu. To me, I don't understand all the criticism. I've talked about it a few times here on this show and why his draft stock has fallen. I think he would be a great pick for the Chicago Bears at 9. If he were to fall there, a guy that going into the college football season was the top left tackle. And now all of a sudden, it seems like he's fallen back, which I'm not against. Hey, let him fall to the Bears. I think that would be a great gift. We've talked about him a few times here tonight, so I won't go too further into depth. I think all that's need to be said has been said about him. And then obviously the fact that they were teammates, Caleb Williams and him in high school, hey, I would, be all for that kind of familiarity. So Shane, number 4 option for the number 9 pick.
Yeah, it's a guy we've talked about already. Mine is Byron Murphy, defensive tackle from Texas. I think he's got the I get very excited when I think about on the interior of our line, with it being Byron Murphy and Jervon Dexter, and you can rotate in Pickens however you need to. And I think the trap that people fall into is they say, oh, the Bears need pass rush. The Bears need pass rush. Yes, they do. And that includes interior pass rush. So you can get that from the inside also. It's not just from the edge. And if you're wrecking games on the inside, on the interior of the line, that is a big, big deal in the NFL, as we've seen. I've heard people try to comp this kid to Aaron Donald. He's not Aaron Donald to me at all. I mean, it would be Aaron Donald very, very light. I think they're on completely different levels, but I think that this kid's going to be a wrecking ball in the NFL. I think he's going to make plays. Pair him with Jervon Dexter and Montez Sweat, and now you're starting to make some noise on a Bears defensive line with some young guys, and I love the thoughts of it.
I mean, you had a defensive lineman to this defense that was trending as one of the top defenses in the league. You're pouring nitrous oxide on something that was already cooking to begin with. So again, not a bad option if that's the route Ryan Poles chooses to do. Because we talk about protection of Caleb Williams on offense and give him a as great a surrounding as you possibly can. Well, a defense also affects your offense. And if your defense gives your offense a bigger margin of error, gets you in better field position, turns the football over, gives you more possession opportunities, those are things that can also help an offense as well. So let's not act like if you're taking defense, that also doesn't directly affect the development of your rookie quarterback. Go ahead here, Phil. What are we at? Number 4 for Phil.
Number 4 for me is a wide receiver out of LSU, Malik Neighbors. Malik has a twitchy, aggressive ability to catch the football. He catches everything with his hands and his eyes. That's important to me, to see an eye catcher that has this kind of run after the catch ability. I know Shane was very high on him early, and just going through all his tape. I mean, there's an aggressiveness when you get behind that dropping linebacker in a zone and you come out the other end knowing that a safety's coming, and he does not cower. He attacks the football every time, tries to get his feet down so he can run after the catch. He dips his pads well. You're looking at a stud, to be perfectly honest. I know I talked about Victor Cruz, not as a player, the comp of the aggressive want to catch every football over the shoulder. If the ball's thrown in an area with which, Jaden Daniels is throwing, he's not as very accurate a lot of times, especially over the middle. He's able to coil and catch low with his finger. It's just really great tape. An explosive runner after the catch, a guy that's a field flipper.
20 years old, by the way.
He is impressive, and he then is he'll run. He's got football speed on top of 40 speed, so he'll be faster playing the game because he's like fearless to contact. So this is a game breaker and a field flipper here, and that's why I have him so high here. If he was to drop, I don't know where. Obviously, none of us do. I'm waiting for the first person to pick the draft correctly in order, and I've been waiting for over 45 years. It's not happened. So
yeah, and
here we are.
We don't know he had the gun charge. I guess that's
the gun charge.
Yes, taken care of. And then when he went to New York, and when they interviewed him here, one of the very first, because I'm here in New York, one of the very first things that he said was, "Yeah, if they bring me in, they got to get me a quarterback that can get me a ball." And that's like, oh man, just sometimes it's better just to not say stuff like that. So that's one of the things that you worry about with it, but that can easily be fixed, with him being so young.
And he's gonna have a quarterback that can get him the ball here in Chicago. And in terms of the gun charge, obviously not something you want on your resume, but at the same time, they drafted Tyreek Stevenson last year. He had a gun, charge, or a gun off the field issue involving a gun, however you want to phrase it, because I don't have the article in front of me of what exactly happened. But Tyreek Stevenson had an off the field issue that was similar. The Bears drafted him. He was great last year. So I don't think that completely pushes him off Ryan Poles board like some people think. So
somebody said to me, well, he's too much like DJ Moore. And I'm like, well, then, okay. Yeah, let's just go ahead and draft him.
Yeah, doesn't sound too bad. All right. Well, I guess I got my number 4 here.
Trade back.
No trade back.
There he is.
Olu Fashanu with the worst picture in our whole night.
I feel like we've seen this picture 12 times tonight.
Well, it's 3 times. Well, maybe 4. I do have the other. So, yeah, I mean, Corey Wooten called Darnell Wright last year, had Troy Fashanu this year. I trust Corey Wooten when in his terms of his offensive line evaluation. It does sound like there's a chance maybe there's some medical there, as Gary was saying that Albert Breer was reporting that that's a possibility. I think I did have it highlighted here. He named some things that Breer said, prospects that have been medically flagged by some teams per Albert Breer. Latu with his neck, Michael Penix with his knee and shoulder,
Fashanu stick right through Phil's heart with that last one.
McConkey with back and ankle, which maybe and then the other 2 he added were Malik Neighbors' shoulder and minimal risk for the shoulder with Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr. with his shoulder, also minimal risk. So shout out to Gary for providing that information here tonight. Yeah, he's really, really good when it comes to stuff.
Their shoulders were just catching shitty balls from Jaden Daniels, but that's a whole different show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dan Orlovsky would disagree, but Troy Fashanu, we've talked about him a few times here at length tonight, so I won't go into any more detail, but he's who I have sitting there at 4. Cause again, I have mostly offensive players. Every offensive lineman and wide receiver that are available on the board potentially for the Bears at 9 are players that are on my list. Why? Because of a man named Caleb Williams.
Period. I love you. I just want to trade down for you.
Yes, exactly.
Hold on.
They'll understand.
See if there's any other pretty girls.
Troy Fashanu will understand when the trade down gets him another wide receiver that makes him look even better. So, Shane, your number 3 option for the number 9 pick.
Well, Phil was talking about unicorns, and this guy might be the ultimate unicorn in this entire draft. And I struggle with even calling him a tight end.
Caleb Williams? Oh, okay.
I struggle with calling him a tight end. And listen, I talked about this a lot. And so Brock Bowers, as of right now, the Bears have almost $40 million committed to the tight end position. And, part of me was thinking, would that drive, Brock Bowers away, being a pick of the Bears, would that push them away? And it really shouldn't. This kid is, you cannot talk about him and just not say special. He's not a tight end. He's an offensive weapon that you can, just like we talked about, having versatility on the offensive line. Keenan Allen gets hurt. And if you're putting Keenan Allen in the slot, guess what? You can put Brock Bowers in the slot and he can be your Keenan Allen.
Yep.
DJ Moore gets hurt. Phil's got some really, I won't get into it because I know he'll be coming up for Phil here. Phil's got some really lofty comps for him, but he's also not wrong. The thought of adding him to the stable with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and having him grow, what is going to be a young quarterback's best friend? Not just a tight end, but a guy that can get open everywhere. He's a mismatch no matter where you put him on the field. And on top of it, you can leave him in line and the kid can block. That's where he's special. People dismiss this guy. So Tony Pauline here in New York keeps on connecting Chicago to Brock Bowers, saying that, the Bears are in on Brock Bowers. And he said he's talked to a bunch of people, and, at times everybody falls in love with these mock draft simulators, seeing him drop down into the teens and into the late teens and maybe even Cincinnati. He said there's no way. He said today Brock Bowers is a stone cold lock to go top 10.
Wow.
Tony Pauline's a connected guy, and the New York Jets want him. So if the Bears decided not to draft him, I think you could easily see the same type of deal that you saw last year where the Bears dropped back one slot with the Jets, pick up a 4th round pick, however it works out, and then they draft at 10. But I would have no issue whatsoever. Phil mentioned it, and I'm sure he'll talk about it. He could see him potentially going 5 to Harbaugh. I think they're going to go offensive line for the Chargers if they don't trade down. But this kid's amazing. He would give you so much that we have never seen in Chicago on the offensive side of the football.
All right. Let's
Damn.
get into it. Number 3.
Damn.
Well said, Shane.
Damn.
That was a slam dunk. You're up, Phil. Number 3 pick.
You almost talked me into him at number 1. I don't know. Number 3 is Olu Fashanu for Coach Phil here. My number 1 offensive tackle by about 5 yards.
You gotta feel like a dickhead to be that running back in that picture, though. Probably.
Where's my career?
Yeah, he's working at Piggly Wiggly's or something. These dudes are both
Go
going
down to the Piggly Wiggly. All those down south of Piggly Wiggly. I'm like, I gotta go into a Piggly Wiggly to see what the hell is in there. But anyway, Olu Fashanu, the feet, the arm length, the technique. I know Iowa came after us because we were using the tape, Penn State versus Iowa, for whatever reason. Our coach's tape, talking over it. Fair use, guys. Calm down. But watching him get to the second level, combo, eyes up, the things that he does as a left tackle, like these guys, had helped me. Laramie Tunsil-like ability. I have no idea. Me and Owen talked. Our big Steve Edwards, who's now former Chicago Bear on our network, we talked. He has Olu Fashanu, who has his number 1 offensive tackle as well. It's been this way for 2 years for me. He's completely what you're looking for. He is an immense, he's an immense improvement over Braxton Jones, and he's a better athlete than Braxton Jones, and he's a better offensive tackle and an more polish to his game. Again, you know how I was about Charles Speed Bump Charlie Leno. There's none of this here. This guy is a physical, mean athlete, and watching his interview and a bunch of interviews of him, so articulate.
Yep.
Very knowledgeable about the game. He's got a good Caleb Williams energy that you want to be around. That counts for something for me. I really, really like this football player. I have no problem with him at 9.
Well, one of the things I heard at the combine, which led me to believe and predict that the Bears were going to take Olu Fashanu with the number 9 pick, was that they were really high on him last year, which is no surprise. I mean, the guy has been a top prospect left tackle every year of his career. He hasn't given up a sack. He's very talented. He plays at Penn State in the Big Ten. So it's not like he's not some secret by any means.
Right.
But I had heard things that people were saying that the Bears were really high on Olu Fashanu last year. Also had heard the same things about Caleb Williams. Like you said, Phil, if the Bears had Caleb Williams come out of the draft last year and the Bears had the number 1 pick, Caleb Williams would probably be a year into his Chicago Bears career. And maybe the same could be said for Olu Fashanu if they'd have had 2 picks in the top 10 last year. So now you fast forward to this moment, and maybe all of this falls right into place. And maybe that is the pick. We're going to find out here.
Well, we picked Darnell Wright last year at TTNL a month and a half before the draft. That was our guy. And we stuck our grounds there. He was the best tackle in the draft, and that's where we thought. I'm going by that saying this is the best tackle. So yes, my experience coaching offensive linemen, he is my best offensive lineman overall. And I also have Fashanu overall. Now, to Shane's point, Alt played tight end, still learning the position. I do have my concerns about some of his feet, his footwork, and his height. especially when it comes to back injuries and being that tall. I know there are some outliers in what's his name with the Ravens. Jonathan Ogden was 6'8", but a lot of these guys over 6'8", 6'9", you see them get beat up in the NFL or get worked. So we'll see. Olu for me though. There, sorry.
Olu
Right.
for Phil.
Now we are at
That's fine.
2. We're at 2.
We're at 2 as long as I get through my third one here.
Oh,
which
you
I
got
will.
your third.
Joe Alt with who is my top offensive tackle on my board here. So yeah, I mean the picture kind of speaks for itself unless you're listening from the audio version. This dude, I understand being tall sometimes can have its will create some limitations for you, but I don't think bend is an issue. Shane said it hasn't been an issue from what he sees on tape. Other guys,
it's definitely not an
issue.
So
that's great news. For a guy that's 6'8". I mean, this dude is just a monster. There's no question about it. A guy that can, just dominate. 6'8", 322. 3-year starter.
How come Olu doesn't get his own slide?
He did get his own slide.
Oh, I didn't see it. I must have been talking.
Yeah, you were talking. So, Joe, no, it's fine. So you get him.
6'6".
Yes. Is it 6'6" or 6'8"?
No, I think he's 6'9".
He's almost 6'9". Yeah. It's like 6'8" and 7/8. But
all right. Well, I've got
he plays shorter than that.
He does bend well. My dad was even talking. My dad likes him a lot too.
A physical freak, strong as an ox. And to me, if he's there at 9, you run to the podium. And like I understand if Joe Alt's on the board and one of the 2 wide receivers between Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze, that's going to be just a really tough decision. And I guess Ryan Poles would probably be pretty hard pressed to not take the tackle at 9 over the receiver. That's just going to be a fascinating thing to watch unfold.
Wide receiver is the deepest position in this.
Well, we'll get into it because I have a couple wide receivers obviously on my board, but I can make an argument why I do not care about who the hell else is on the board as far as wide receiver. I understand.
I'll tell you why you're wrong. That's fine.
All right, we'll get into it. You're number 2, Shane.
Here we go.
Yeah, my number 2.
I have no idea what it is. I'm trying
wide receiver, Greg. Malik Neighbors.
There he is.
Yeah, I mean, what else needs to be said? We talked about it, and it's when you're drafting guys, you need to have special. We talked about it with Byron Murphy, talked about it with Dallas Turner. You need to be explosive. It's guys that can flip a field on one play. I mean, those little dump offs, curls. Well, he can take a curl and he can go 78 yards with it. And there's, he's a separation maestro. And I think about him on this team surrounded by 2 savvy vets. Listen, he's 20 years old. He's probably got to grow up a little bit. What 2 better guys for him to learn from? And he's very, very close with who? Caleb Williams. They talk weekly. So that is an important part of this also. You talked about having him grow into the position. This is a guy that can be here for the next, 10 years and be an all-timer for the Bears now on offense. That's a pretty low bar. But he brings some traits to the table that I just think it's, he's got some alien to him. He's not a big guy, but he's so explosive. He can change direction and his speed doesn't change. And that's when you're talking about your receiving ability and when you're in your patterns, where you create your separation, when you're not breaking speed, when you're maintaining your speed and you have a special quarterback with a lightning quick release, those are things that are amazing. And he fits perfectly. He's a guy. The Bears always, if you watch them, overall their team always lacks speed. And it used to be blinding on that kickoff.
Flex Diggs.
What's that?
I liked what Flex Diggs, comment that Steve Smith that's Exactly.
But yeah,
He's
just
aggressive. He's a killer.
explosiveness,
Explosive.
and yeah, you can't have enough of those guys.
And when you talk about
go ahead,
not losing speed when he's making his moves, that was Devin Hester. Devin Hester's speed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you're making your move and you're still staying top end speed, that's rarefied air when you talk about athleticism. Go ahead, Phil. I'm sorry.
No, I was talking about when we broke him down. We broke him and his teammate Brian Thomas Jr. down one night with Jaden Daniels, and obviously our take on Jaden Daniels being, I didn't know, we haven't talked to each other about our top five.
QB5 for me.
He's both of our QB5s, Jaden Daniels. Sorry, Dan Orlovsky. I know we're both from Connecticut, but when I coached against you, we beat you here at Shelton High School, and we will beat you again with this hot take you have on Jaden Daniels. But Neighbors, Greg, I mean, he's a magician of aggressiveness. Steve Smith is a great comp flex, and there's one play that we broke down and we went into a lot of detail on it where he's running a curl, to Shane's point, and he has to go short of the yards to make, but he's so aware that he catches the ball, and instead of trying, he just pushes himself backwards, understanding where he is on the field to get his team a first down on third down. It's those kind of unselfish and instinctive things that make this kid even better because of how fast and aggressive, and he's an eye catcher. And when I say that, I play with a guy, Wayne Corbett at Hofstra. He became an all-pro with the Jets. Wayne was an eye catcher first. You catch with your eyes through your hands. That's what Neighbors does on deep balls, in cuts, posts, anything. He's not dropping that ball. You rarely see him drop. So there you go. Neighbors. Shane's guy.
Shane's guy. Phil, your guy. Number 2.
My number 2 is also a receiver, and I believe he's the number 1 receiver in this draft, Greg. I wouldn't trade up for a receiver anyway, and it's Rome Odunze, and that's going to make a lot of fans uncomfortable, but that's fine. I'm watching the tape and seeing a goddamn expert actor when it comes to route running. A lot of Keenan Allen in regards to that, but there's this superior ability to track the ball, as Shane was alluding to, over his shoulder, outside. Again, another eyes to hand catcher. Even in this picture, one of Greg's best pictures of the night. Mm-hmm. You could see him track the ball.
I think that's the play we had on last night, Phil.
It might be.
It is.
The reality of him and his ability to get, I mean, he does jump balls. He's doing the post. He's physical. He dips his pads into people. Now, he's not as fast as Neighbors. And I just look at the room. Either one of these guys, Neighbors or Odunze, is going to be amazing for the Chicago Bears. Odunze just has this energy about him on the football field. When a play was needed to be made, he made it. He doesn't drop many balls, just like Neighbors, and I just really like the fact that he's versatile enough to run those shallow crosses and separate, run at the stem, and totally turn people around. He gets himself wide open, and if you have a guy like Caleb Williams throwing to this guy, who also is friends with Caleb, you're going to see Rome Odunze. The Chicago Bears are going to finally have these Sundays where highlights aren't of a running quarterback or a running back or a defense making a, it's going to be the quarterback throwing dimes to these receivers making catches. So there you go.
Yep.
Rome Odunze, my number 2 choice at 10.
Yes, and I'll get to my number 2 choice, but big fan of the show, Jim Larison.
Look at Jim.
Really great
for me to not be able to play
really
that.
Great show tonight. Thanks
He's
for all
giving you props.
Thanks for all your
Gotta
experience
be
and
on my
expertise, guys. Jim, you're welcome. I know you tune in weekly for my experience and my expertise, and that's what we appreciate. That's what we do here at CHGO Bears After Dark. Here, Phil and Shane from the Tape Never Lies Network hanging out, doing a 2-hour After Dark special to get you ready for the NFL draft. 3 sleeps away from Caleb Williams becoming a Chicago Bear. My number 2 option for the Bears for the number 9 pick, Malik Neighbors, ladies and gentlemen. Like you said, Steve Smith written all over this guy. Sign me up all day long. You know, I know he comes from LSU, so does Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe in Odell's younger days, maybe a little bit of a comp. Malik's probably faster than Odell Beckham, but this guy is big play all day. Slot fade is where he makes his money. That's what he said at the combine. Well, guess what? Caleb Williams throws a great slot fade, throws a great back shoulder, throws a great deep ball. And like Shane said, has stayed in contact with Malik Neighbors, or maybe Malik's making sure he's staying in contact with Caleb.
I think
not bad.
Want to make sure.
Yeah.
Not get me on his team.
Yeah, not bad company.
Look at Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, that was Mike. That was awesome. Yeah.
Not bad company. Yeah. I mean, people are going to want to start playing for the Bears now. They're going to be, you know, if everything goes the way we hope it does, they're going to be the hottest show in town here 20 Sundays from now. So I've got Malik Neighbors. You guys have gone into detail as to why I feel the same way for me. And then we'll get you. Obviously, I think some people can understand what my number 1 pick is about to be. But again, for the 9,000th time, put talent around Caleb Williams. Put more wide receivers in this room. Right now, the only receiver under contract 2 years from now is Tyler Scott. Yes, they're going to re-sign DJ Moore. I have no doubt about that. But as of right now, they haven't. He's got 2 more years left on his deal. Next year, you're going to have to get into serious contract negotiations with him. You're not going to let the 2 years run out and then try to pay this
one this offseason.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And look at the money that Darnell Mooney got off a bad year. Imagine the money that DJ Moore is about to get. So
he had a bad quarterback, Greg.
And obviously that's how the Atlanta Falcons felt, and that's why they paid Darnell Mooney the way they did. Gabe Davis did come from a good quarterback, didn't necessarily have a great year. He got paid big money. All receivers that hit the market get paid. Davis. I like Gabe Davis too, but I'm just saying, like, all receivers who hit the market make big money because most good to great receivers don't even hit the free agent market. Exactly. And neither will DJ Moore, but still they haven't signed him to a contract yet. Keenan Allen's only got 1 year left on his deal. And you can talk about how deep this wide receiver class is all you want. You trade back into the second round. Guess what? You don't know where you're picking on a trade back, and you don't know who's falling to you. What you do know is who's going to be there at 9 if they're sitting there waiting for you to draft them and turn in
you trade up when you know who's. I mean, you don't trade up blind into the second round. You're like, all right, this guy's fallen. I'm going to go get him.
Sure. But I understand that. But I'm saying if you trade back from 9 and get back into the second round, you don't know who's coming to you.
Well,
and yeah, so if you have to move up a little bit to take, your guy.
Let me put this out there because I think this is very, very important. And I think a lot of people are fixated on dropping down a little bit and demanding that you get a 2 back in return. I don't think that you have to. Even if you fall back a little bit and you get a 3, then that gives you 2 3s. You can always go up from your 2 third rounders into the second round. You have assets next year, so you can go up even higher. I think all of this is in play.
Yep. I mean, you have 2 second round picks next year. And if you really want to move up into the top end of the second round this year, you could package 75 and next year's second and move into the second this year, potentially.
I just want to go against this because it doesn't infuriate me, but the Chicago Bears have 2 top 10 first round picks, right? In this draft. That means they don't have a second round pick, but they have a third. So their second that they would try to trade up to possibly get somebody, they already own it. You're getting the best quarterback in the last 30 years. You also have a 9th pick. It could be 8th tomorrow. We don't know. You take the pick. You take the blue chip players. That's what you do. Don't worry about fucking trading down and getting the guy and getting another pick. Get the best players on your board that are blue chippers. Now, if you get a cluster like we are here, that's when you can try to negotiate down. Well, there's 5 guys that we really have amazing grades and blue marks on them, right? That's when you could trade down and say, okay, we could recoup something. But if they're not, you fucking run up to the podium and you pick the goddamn player. If it's Rome Odunze or my number 1 player, that's what you need to do as the Bears. They don't ever do that shit. Your fans are getting greedy. If it's Olu Fashanu and that's the blue chipper for you and your crew, this isn't Ted Phillips and that moronic group of people anymore. This is football.
Was this your nice way of telling Greg that his list was terrible because it said trade down on every single one of them?
The remix album when he comes back on our show.
My top 5, but my top 5 options. Top 5 options are to stick and pick or even trade up and be very bold. So
don't ever trade up.
What would you do, Greg, if you traded up and you gave up your first rounder next year to go up
again?
And then at number 9, Malik Neighbors fell there.
Listen,
exactly.
Once again,
Marvin Harrison Jr. is not in my top.
If I was the GM,
receivers.
All right, well, go on because when we went through Marvin,
there's
Harrison,
not enough of a gap. You're not
Marvin Harrison
This
Jr.
isn't Caleb Williams.
Not
hold on, Shane.
He is not. He is not Randy Moss out there. He's not Malik Neighbors. He's not a Dunze. He's a good wide receiver. I could see him going in the top 10. He's going to be a good guy. I don't see this elite talent that I don't see it on tape. I'm asking people to show it to me. And I know the quarterback. Me and Shane talked about it. I don't think he's in Shane's top 10 here either. The quarterback struggled last year, but even with CJ Stroud, I don't see this dominance. I see a great offense.
He's got unbelievable hands.
He's got great hands.
Unbelievable hands. I
don't have him over Neighbors.
He's a great route runner.
There's no way that anybody can explain to me that they have enough of a graded difference between these top 3 wide receivers.
Exactly.
That you're pouring
I told
valuable assets. To me, it's Mitch Trubisky. It's you moving up 1 spot.
Exactly.
But he's not Mitch, though. He's not.
No. But my point is, the player doesn't even matter.
But
the player
he's showing you. He's saying
everybody knows that Patrick Mahomes was the number 2 quarterback on Ryan Pace's quarterback board, but he had so much of a separation. He had to give up assets to move up 1 spot. So he had a sizable window between Mitch and Patrick Mahomes. I don't think there's that window between Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze
I'm inclined to agree with you, which is why
you have to throw Brock Bowers in here too.
I'm inclined to agree with you.
Should I go now with my number 1?
Hold on. I just wanted to say to Shane, I'm inclined to agree with you, which is why my list says that way. And you'll see my number 1 option here in a second. But then I'll also, because you asked me the question, if they trade next year's number 1 pick and move up, will I be upset? No, because I'm going to just
there wouldn't be part of you that if Malik Neighbors or so Rome Odunze, I mean, I'm not breaking news here, is going to be your top guy. So let's just say you moved up and you gave up your future first rounder, 2025 first rounder, to move up to 5 with the Chargers.
I wouldn't do
it. And the way that it fell, if Odunze was available to the Chargers at 9, there wouldn't be a part of you is like, oh, Jesus.
If I'm Ryan Poles, I'm not making that move. I also would not advise Ryan Poles to make that move. But if he does make that move, I'm not going to complain. Yeah. I'm not. I'm going to be ecstatic on Thursday night doing cartwheels if the Bears end up with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. and we can worry about
we're not going to hate the player.
Right.
We just hate the process.
I don't like the process of
Yeah.
moving up
Okay,
when
and
I have him as the third best receiver based
I'm
on tape.
and I'm with
that,
and that's the most profound statement of the whole discussion, because at the end of the day, I don't think any of us really think they are going to trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I don't have him on my top 10 list here because I don't think he's going to be available, and I don't want the Bears even. I don't want the
trading up
Bears
for him.
moving.
He doesn't want him moving
All
up.
right, Shane, your number one pick as we hit the
And
2-hour mark.
this pains me because I hate Notre Dame and everything about them. But to me, Joe Alt, when I see Joe Alt, I don't think he's quite as athletic as Lane Johnson, but I look at where he is in his journey, and it's the same thing. Lane Johnson was the same type of athlete, tight end convert, very, very young in his progression as an offensive tackle. I just think that this guy at 21 years old, with all of the physical attributes that he has, you put him with a top flight quarterback that's going to get rid of the ball in a timely fashion. I think the sky is the limit for Joe Alt. I think about where he'll be in 4 years at 25 years old with Darnell Wright. I mean, it's just I don't think there's any way you can go wrong on this. I get do you love offensive tackles that are 6'8" or 6'9"? No, you don't. But I would be way more concerned if this guy played to that height. He doesn't. To me, he plays like he's 6'5" or 6'6". He really does. I think that he's special. When you look at everything and where he is in his progression as a football player, I mean the when you're talking upside with Malik Neighbors and with Brock Bowers, Joe Alt he's right there for me. And you're protecting your most valuable commodity.
He's
Okay.
a big upgrade.
Well, I want you, Shane, to take note that the picture I used, he is blocking Syracuse. Sure.
I was at that game, and it was not fun.
Syracuse season ticket holder had to make sure I put that. And the picture is just unbelievable to look at. It really is. Like this, just how big he is as the running back is going over his leg, which looks like a fallen redwood. Like it's unbelievable how big this dude is. So I'm with you. If he's at number 9, I would not. His
father played in the league as well.
Yeah.
And Brian Baldinger was on our show last week saying, hey, he reminds me of Joe Thomas. I think every single person.
You take him and you go fishing just like Joe did on draft day.
Yeah. Phil, your number one pick.
My number one pick is I said this, if you follow me on my social media, I said there's 2 unicorns in this draft. Caleb Williams is the number 1 unicorn, unlike any other player in the draft. And number 2 unicorn is Brock Bowers. Again, I have done this a long time. There's things that Brock Bowers can do that Marvin Harrison dreams of doing. And when I talk about elite blue chip unicorn talents, what he is on every level of your offense is versatility. He could play the outside X or the Y, whatever, the Z. He's going to be a matchup nightmare. And when you get matchups in the NFL with a quarterback that's accurate and a guy that's 6'4", 243 pounds, and can run like that, it becomes a different level of football that the Bears have never seen. If you line him up on the outside and you're running outside zone and he's the split end, he is going to destroy any Packer corner out there and create an edge for your run game. Then he can, when I talked about Odunze being an actor at the top of the route, this guy's ability to stem and act like he's going to the flag and then just tiptoe with such, Shane, the explosiveness out of his break at the stem of a route is outstanding. And then when I talk about soft hands everywhere around his body, it doesn't matter. He's catching the football. We show the good and the bad, and this guy is a dream. An eye hand catcher. I call him Terrell Owens. If you want to line him out there, he's Terrell Owens and Chris Carter. That's the kind of aggressiveness you're going to see him going up for the football and creating mismatches. If you want to do what you want to do, Marvin Harrison, no. Brock Bowers is going to outmuscle any NFL corner, and he's going to attack the football and make big plays. We saw him in the flat. He becomes a matchup. You could play him at H-back and wing, bring him in motion. This dude blocks like George Kittle. He sticks to people and efforts through, runs his feet, pancakes people. I mean, he is the I loved Kittle coming out. I thought we were getting him, and we took Adam fucking Shaheen. This is why he's my number one choice there. If you get a unicorn there, you don't trade back. You run up to the podium and you take an absolute future superstar with another absolute future star at quarterback. And now you're not talking about, okay, maybe we'll win the division. We're talking about winning Super Bowls. That's what you're doing, because he can go in trips. You can play 3 tight ends and bunch them up and break and release, and nobody is going to be able to cover him in the flat going towards the sideline. And if they do, then you got your, Cole Kmet coming open in the flat. I mean, you put so much stress on a defense when you have 6'4", 243. It's like nothing I've ever seen. And watching his tape over and over from last year to this year, we didn't even get to show you the Auburn film, which is outstanding. And the way Waldron uses these kind of football players, Shane, Georgia used him, Greg. Guess how long at tight end? 40%.
About 40% of his snaps.
So where's the other 60%? Doing exactly what we showed. He's playing slot. No one could cover him. Yep. He played running back. He played quarterback. He played wider. He played X. And he is a matchup nightmare. You have those guys with Caleb Williams? You fucking kidding me? That's how you win championships.
Yep. And Travis McKnight in the chat taking the words right out of my mouth. Yep. Coaches seek mismatches. That's what I said. I imagine Shane Waldron loving him. And to that point, when we had Jackson Smith and Jigba on with us at the Super Bowl, media row, and we asked him like, "Wait, what did you think of Shane Waldron?" And Jackson Smith was like, "Is this live?" Because
why?
Because he wasn't getting the ball,
right?
And but to the point here of the guy talking about Shane Waldron, and you brought it up too, Phil. Shane Waldron loves using his tight ends. He's a former tight end coach. You bring in Gerald Everett, yes, but
you can move off of that contract next year,
right?
After 1 year, you can get out of it for
and
like
we
$1 million.
asked Cole Kmet at the Super Bowl, what if the Bears ended up with Brock Bowers? He was like, sign me up. He wasn't against it. And so,
should he be?
Right. And so to me, Brock Bowers, I see somebody in the chat saying, oh, no way, because they have Everett and Cole Kmet. No, again, like you said, he's a wide receiver.
He would make Cole Kmet infinitely more important to your offense.
Amazing. Cole Kmet would then take his game to another. And again, I'm telling you, Terrell Owens like speed down the sideline and overpowering defensive backs. You just don't find these kind of people. Cole Kmet can't dream of what he's doing in the stem of his route. He is, someone said Odunze or Bowers. It's Bowers. I can't be. There's 2 unicorns. There are 2 players you don't come around very often in the draft. It's Brock Bowers and Caleb Williams. If the Bears can get both of them, it ain't Marvin Harrison Jr. Just show me the fucking tape where it is, because it doesn't exist. He's good. He's a good player. But Bowers is a matchup machine.
Yep.
And when you get those, you win.
Mr. Johnny Chimpo in the chat saying, dude, 6'3", 240 pounds and can run a 4.48. Who's guarding him? Chris Raines making a great point in the chat. Super Bowl this year featured probably the 2 best tight ends in the game right now.
Exactly.
That happened for a reason.
Great
So,
point, Chris.
So there it is. Let me
but
get
he's more than a tight end. That's the thing.
Yeah, just
right.
You need him to be your slot, he'll be your slot. You need him to be your X, he'll be your X.
Can you imagine what's his name from Green Bay, the shit talker, having to cover him and him just bullying his ass out there? What's his name? The corner, I can't. He runs his mouth all the time from Jair Alexander. Imagine you force that matchup. This guy can get into the backfield and you could toss him the football.
No,
and he can run the ball.
I see in the chat somebody said, didn't they say Kyle Pitts was a unicorn? Yeah, no. He's just he was just a thin, wide receiver, right?
Blue chip player in Pitts. Outstanding, but this is a different level of football, and it shows up on the tape. All you got to do is become a patron.
So many bases because if DJ tweaked an ankle or Keenan pulls a hammy or whatever, this guy just goes in and fills in the hole wherever you need it. And then when everybody's healthy, man, it's things like I said earlier. It's something that you've never seen.
The other thing about Pitts, just to defend him, his quarterback play and designs of matchups.
Think they'll use him this year?
They're gonna fucking use him. Watch what he does this year before you turn the page on Pitts. But
I think some of the fantasy owners are
they're upset.
They're afraid to triple down because 2 years ago, everybody was the hot pick, didn't do well. Last year, people tried to double down. Once again, failed years. So I think people are softening from a fantasy standpoint, but Kyle Pitts certainly is talented. All right. So Shane with his number 1 option for the number 9 pick was Joe Alt, offensive lineman. Phil, his number 1 option for the number 9 pick, Brock Bowers, tight end, 2 offensive players. And I'm going the exact same route with my top option for the number 9 pick, Rome Odunze.
There he is.
Had to rock the graphic that our guy Joey Spathis made. Such an amazing job with some
great. Here comes the Justin Fields haters coming after
Rome Odunze with the number 1.
Why is he wearing Jalen Johnson's jersey, Greg?
Yeah, that's true.
You got to talk to the graphics guy. I think it's the number 1 option for Greg.
Yeah,
that's we're gonna give him
he made that. I think he made that edit before Jalen came around. Certainly is a sweet edit there, but an even sweeter player. Just love this kid's moxie. He's a hand catch god. As our guy Brandon Gustafson, who covers the Seattle Seahawks and is a Washington alum and somebody that lives out in that area. That's what he dubbed him. And I completely agree. Anybody that watched Washington this year, they were one of the most explosive, high octane offenses you could watch. And they were a lot of fun. And Michael Penix, throwing to Rome Odunze, there was nothing more fun to watch this year than that. Honestly, they were highlight reel. And this dude's got speed. He's got a punt return for a touchdown where he shows that off. He's just got so much talent. You add that to this room of Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. I'm sprinting to the podium if I have the opportunity of Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors at 9. I think it's going to be one or the other that are there at 9. I don't think both will be. It'll surprise me. I mean, Phil's starting to, feel like, Marvin Harrison Jr. drop. I think that would surprise me. I think he's going to the Cardinals at 4. I don't think they're going to find a dance partner for a trade partner. So for me, I think that it'll be one or the other between Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors, and that's why I have them 1 or 2 on my list. But number 1 option for me is Rome Odunze if he's there. I'm just going to sprint to the podium. I'm never going to look back. I'm going to give my quarterback and pair him with a wide receiver for the next 5 years. Now you get him and DJ Moore, who you're going to lock up to a long-term extension. See if you can do something with Keenan Allen for more than just this year. And now all of a sudden for the next 3 years, we're off and running. You have a 1st-round pick next year. You have 2 second-round picks
in a deeper draft, by the way.
In a much
blue chippers now. This draft drops off.
This is your last chance. In my opinion, you have to operate like this is your last chance to take a top 10 pick. If everything goes
Right,
according to
exactly.
plan, the Bears won't be picking in the top 10 anytime soon. So you got to play this right. You got to take your blue chip while you can. And Shane, what did Ryan Poles say? Not after this year's end of season press conference, but after last year, 2 years ago at the end of season press conference. What did he say he wanted to put on this team?
I'm assuming playmakers.
Playmakers was the statement.
Yeah.
And so for me, he's done best player available. He's filled the trenches.
This guy's going to trade back for.
Now he's going to bring in a playmaker. I can see the reasoning behind beefing up the O-line. I can see the reasoning for a 3-tech and a DN. But the thing that makes the most sense to me is bringing in a wide receiver. If one of these guys gets hurt between Keenan Allen or DJ Moore, God forbid, what do you have in the wide receiver room? There's some guys still on the market, but nothing that is a long-term option. And I'm not just looking about this year's solutions. I'm looking at solutions over the next 5 years. And wide receiver is a premium position, a top premium position. And so you've got to ensure yourself a guy not that you'll have for the next 5 years that you're not going to have to pay an exorbitant amount of money, because you're going to have to pay DJ Moore that. And you're seeing what's happening with the Cincinnati Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You can't pay everybody. So right now you have an opportunity to get a talented wide receiver on a rookie contract. Sign me up. That's what I want. That's what I think the Bears are going to do. I saw Albert Breer alluding to the fact that if one of these wide receivers are available at 9, that's going to be the pick. If not, maybe a trade back's on the table. I tend to listen when Albert Breer talks. There's nobody that's more connected to the situation if you follow his reporting from the combine on. So I definitely have my ears perked up to what Breer is saying, and it's, of my opinion, that's what I think the Bears should do. So that's
Let's put him on the spot. Let's put him on the spot. Greg,
obviously, it's numbered my 2. I have Brock Bowers. The only gripe I have, sorry, Shane, with Greg is his list. He's got Bowers in a trade back.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I was about to say, let me go. Where's my?
He was just in that mode of trading back for every player.
I didn't even have Bowers on
my list, bro.
Bowers isn't on my list. I made it.
Your list.
CHGO is having an emergency meeting right now about the future
Bowers
of Greg
isn't on my list.
Well, all right. Bowers fits your speech and your rant as well, Greg. Right. I have Rome behind him, but if they pick Rome, I'm with you.
You're right. I should have Bowers on my list
in this draft.
You're right.
Rome is. Right. And you don't trade up for Marvin Harrison.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, don't.
So
I tell my boy Cap that too.
As the up and coming, Chicago sports superstar that you clearly are, what is your gut feel for number 9 that is going to what is going to happen? Going up, going down, and give me the player.
I think they're sticking at 9, and I think they're taking a wide receiver, whether it's Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors. And if I had to guess, it's going to be Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors at 9. And I think the guy that will be there at 9 is Rome Odunze, and I do think that's who the Bears are going to draft.
There you go.
It makes the most sense to me.
Shane's got Alt, but he's not. You don't believe Alt's going to make it.
If Joe Alt makes it tonight.
I can see.
Courtney Cronin said today she does not. Cap asked if there's any chance that the Bears trade up for a wide receiver, and he specifically named Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, and she kind of agreed with my point with the grading. There's not much of a separation between them. Exactly. So you don't want to pour assets into that. And she brought up an interesting scenario.
I love Courtney.
Yeah, she said if the Bears go up, she thinks it would be for Joe Alt.
Wow.
Don't go up
for nobody.
I wouldn't trade up for anybody either. And I love Joe Alt.
Honestly say I'd be okay with trading up for is Bowers. That's it, because he's that unicorn.
These guys is putting your guys' feet to the fire. So
is this
Shane,
what's gonna happen? We believe He's
Right.
What do we think the Bears?
We've had our top options.
Okay. Yep.
So now it's what you
I
believe will actually happen when the Bears are on the clock with the number 9 pick.
I think they're going to go down to like 11 or 12 in that range and draft J.C. Latham.
Wow.
All right, Phil.
I am terrible at being a psychic, so I will just guess here that I believe they will stay at 9.
Come on, Nostradamus.
They will take Rome Odunze at 9. And listen, for the record, if Marvin Harrison drops, and I think he might, if they picked him at 9 and that was their choice, I'd be perfectly fine with it. Listen, I will never change my stances here. But for the record, I just think they're going to take Rome Odunze. And yes, he's going to play him at left tackle.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think they're going to go down.
I think they're trading back. I could see them taking Byron Murphy at 9. I really could.
I could see him taking Latham at 9. I can.
If Olu's on the board there, I can't.
Is there anybody that either of you, because like Illini MCG saying,
I have
sick if they go down for JC
I'm
Latham.
sure he's probably watched about 0 snaps of tape on JC
regardless of Illini, boiler up.
He probably wants Johnny Newton, right? And
what I want to ask you guys,
Johnny Newton would be the guy that I'd be sick to my stomach.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yes, if Johnny Newton was called,
I would be
9.
pissed.
I would.
That's the one. That's the
like,
only scenario that I think that I would be like
disappointed,
pissed off at is Johnny Newton at 9. No way.
Sorry, Corey. Johnny Newton is a 2nd round guy in my book, and the medicals and all that stuff on him, I don't think he'll be there, but that would be the guy that I
don't think 9 is too rich for lit. Everybody said that 9 was too rich for Darnell Wright last year.
All right.
There's still people that say it, but yeah.
Well, there it is. Almost a 2.5 hour Bears After Dark. I know that my guys, Adam Hogue, Mark Carmen, Nick's been in the chat, so shout out to Nick, but I know Hogue and Carm are going to be giving me a lot of shit for this draft After Dark marathon, but we want to do right by our viewers. Hey, you got a 2.5 hour show. Only
you're
one
be against the 2 hour banger is what you're saying.
Only one ad read, nothing but football talk.
Oh, imagine that.
Hey,
gross.
I didn't. I know. Well, we're trying to pay the bills.
Do draft talk and talk about cell phones. Yeah.
So,
awesome.
But I will ask you one more time to hit that like button for hanging out for this 2.5 hour show. And props to you two for sticking this out, because I know you guys have a ton of different shows planned for the week. You guys are going to be live just as we are during the draft, and you guys do a great job. Plenty of room for all of us to eat within this Chicago Bears content that we all put out. And again, I always appreciate where you guys helped me get to this point, so you're always going to get the love from me on my end. Chubbs82 in the chat, $2 super chat. Edge rusher Greg at 9. We don't need another wide receiver. A realtor named House, Adam House, says support the things you love you all. Well, we love you too, Adam.
Thank you, Mr. House.
Yes,
I need a house.
Daniel Perez echoing my sentiments. Over 500 people in the chat pretty much all night here tonight. Hanging out, watching the show live here on Bears After Dark. So please hit that like button for the marathon that you guys got to hang out for. We appreciate every one of you for your support. Evan Wells saying, come
Iowa.
Evan Wells saying, come on, guys, you missed doing 4 hour long shows.
Sure
yes.
We'll be doing it this
Phil,
weekend.
Yeah, we'll be doing enough of them here coming up in a couple days.
yes. Well, I have missed doing them with you guys. So tonight was running it back for sure. Daniel saying this show is longer than the actual draft. And it's true. A lot of information to get into, a lot of rants.
Well,
to
Greg gives us 10 instead of 5, which
Yeah.
keeps us long.
That's true. That was my
No.
fault. Chubb's 82, 17 wide receivers in the top 100 in this draft. So Chubb's continuing to pound the table that we need to focus on defense to start this draft. Alex Deno, $5 super chat. Braggs, did you hear the impersonation Carm did of you today? Top notch. I did hear it, Alex. We were golfing.
Only Shane has
Shane
top
does the OG Braggs impersonation, but I'll have to give Mark credit. He was asked to do a Braggs impersonation, and I was on the golf course with my buddies listening to the show, and he actually did a pretty good one where he had my whole crew laughing while we were teeing off. So shout out to Carmen. He asks, question, does Latu or Turner have a higher ceiling between the two?
I think Turner's got the higher ceiling, clearly. I think Latu's floor is
Latu
higher.
so much.
Yeah, I just
medical.
You're talking about ceiling. I don't think it's. Yeah, I mean, I think Turner's ceiling because Latu's an older prospect also.
Yep. All right. Who do you have, Phil?
I have Latu. I just think that his ability is being obviously balanced by that medical, but his ability, he's only going to be a rookie, so his ceiling of talent is
you got one more super chat there.
Yes, Greg.
We got a couple in here.
We have to know this super chat question. This is a good question, James Hunter.
Greg.
There's a 37-cent in there. We all assumed that it was Greg.
Did Braggs donate the 37 cents to the Wolverines? Phil's Little League football team and his league he's raising money for. And a few weeks ago, he sent me a GoFundMe to send money.
It's a Zeffy. So
or
it's
a Zeffy.
It's a nonprofit.
To raise money for the whole league to get helmets,
uniforms,
and uniforms and the whole thing. Phil, is a coach for one of the teams, the Wolverines, and I have yet to donate. I wanted to make sure Phil put in his time.
It was going to be $37, Phil, and I think Jenny took off a couple of those zeros.
Well, every time
Phil
texted something to me that annoyed me, I was taking deductions, and then he really hit hard where he said, "Go UConn" the day before
from Connecticut. Man.
I don't care. I do not care. You support your friends. You do not care about basketball. So for you to say that instead of rooting for your friend's happiness, you don't even care about basketball. You had the audacity to say go UConn. So I say that I want to tank this league, and I hope these kids never play football. I'm kidding. I'm going to donate. I'll see if Jim Larison will send me over some money. I'll have to ask to borrow some from him. But I appreciate you guys coming on here tonight. We did have Scottish Bear, 5 sterling pounds or whatever that is. Great show, Greg. Whatever it is. Great show, Greg. Give me Bowers or give me death. All right.
He's quoting me from you were on that show.
Yeah, he was in the
chat.
Tevin
Jenkins.
Last week, your name came up in the chat, Phil, and Scottish Bear was having your back, so
thank you, Scottish Bear.
Shout out to Scottish Bear.
He's a great dude.
He's been a big supporter of what I do here as well. So always appreciate those who support in a positive fashion. That's right, Eric Alley. The gang is back together here tonight. The Tape Never Lies Network here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Long time coming, finally getting Phil on the show. Shane's been on a few times, but finally getting our schedules lined up with Phil. The busy schedule that these guys have. Why don't you give our viewers here, and obviously there's a lot of people that are your viewers as well here in the chat tonight, but for the people that may not know what you guys are all about, why don't you tell them what you are about and what you guys got planned for the week, and then we'll call it a night here tonight.
Yeah, TTNL says it all. The tape never lies. It's all everything we do is based off of tape first and foremost. We know that the analytics and all of that have to be a part of it, but the roots of what we do is all based on tape. So obviously it's a big week for all Chicago Bears content creators and Bears fans, and we go live every day the week of the draft. Earlier we had Big Steve Edwards, former Chicago Bears offensive lineman, debuted his show, The Bear Down with Big Steve, on TTNL.
Great dude.
Then came on here with you. And tomorrow night, we have our annual fight night, which Phil and I go head to head. And it's draft related. We draft rookies at each position to create our entire team and then see how they stack up against one another. So that's going to be live tomorrow night on TTNL. We just alternate picks and create our whole team. Wednesday night is our mothership show, Keeping It 100, and we're going to have your guy, Matthew Carsonson, is going to have his annual Chicago. What will the Chicago Bears do? He's been on fire the last couple of years, hitting those right on the head. He's going to do a mock draft and what he thinks that Ryan Poles will do. And then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are pretty self-explanatory. We will be live, gavel to gavel, for all the Bears coverage you'll ever want. And Phil and I have some days off from our regular lives, so I'm sure we're going to be going live during the day and getting in some maybe last-minute tape analysis especially for our patrons. Head over to the tapeneverlies.com and sign up there if you'd be so kind. And we're ready for it, man. It's been a long time. Us three have wasted a lot of hours via text and on the phone talking about this day that's coming up, man. And I couldn't be more excited.
Yep.
Yes, we were the first ones also to defend Caleb Williams to the nines. I just want it for the record.
Okay, it's on the record. The first.
Thank you.
The first, and the last, the everything.
But when you do put your neck out there and take the shots that you take based on what it is you've seen and show it, like we don't just say, hey, I watched the tape and this is what I came with. We actually bring you in and recreate a room of you guys are now the scouts with us, or you're the coach. And we go through the tape and telestrate and show you the techniques and teach football at the same time. So we will go through every player the Chicago Bears drafted and the undrafted free agents. Shout out to my guy, Chris Harold, who continues to help us improve everything we do at TTNL with the tape. And this is coach's tape, not television stuff. This is the reality of what it is you need. We bring on guests. We also have Chris Zorich on our network, former Chicago Bear defensive lineman, Notre Dame All-American, another great guy. And he brings his college football analysis to the network as well. So that's where we do. And I love my guy, Greg, despite his many flaws. I'm kidding. And I shout out to CHGO. And as Shane said, there's plenty of me and Shane get labeled as bullies and Bears content creating. We destroy content create. No, we destroy frauds. That's our job. When we see manipulative, fraudulent narratives being drawn up and talked about and completely lying, that's what we do. And Greg, you guys are doing a great job here.
Thank you.
Truly appreciate you bringing us on the show and all you guys do here. I'm glad we were able to build a bridge or send an olive branch with Nick. Nick, we get Carm, and we get Adam. We spoke to Adam a long time ago. Adam was the guy who allowed me to have my phone charged when I was working at Bears Wire USA Today. All right. There you go. We're out of here.
This is the after hours. No, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Shout out to CHG.
Thank you very much. And obviously, like I said from the start, For those of you that don't know, that watch this show and watch CHGO Bears and don't know really how I got into this, I always get a lot of, questions about, hey, how do I get started in this industry? How do I start a podcast, or how do I build a platform? And these two here, and Phil, really showed me the way, to start when I was trying to figure out my ways, and spent a lot of years grinding, learning the podcast game. These guys are as detailed as it comes, as passionate as it comes, and as authentic as it comes. And that's the things I learned. And those are the things I try to tell other people when they ask me for advice, is authenticity overall. And that's where you're talking about, Phil, about, some of the people that are out there, the grifters, the people that are trying to push lies and narratives for clout. That's something I always have. I don't care if you're a tape guy. I don't care if you're a numbers guy. I don't care if you're just the hot take guy or a meatball, or, however you want to phrase yourself or frame yourself as a content creator, so to speak. Just be authentic. If you're if you're a negative person by nature, fine. If you're a positive person by nature, fine. But just be true to yourself, be authentic. And that's something you two taught me a long time ago when I first got into this, because it's not easy sitting in front of this camera and being yourself to the most that you possibly can. And some of us, can't help themselves. And I know the three of us, we're going to be ourselves no matter what, because it's just a part of our DNA. So appreciate you guys showing me the way. That's why I'm at where I'm at today. So we'll continue to do some of these crossover shows. Once again, thank you to everyone that tuned in here tonight. Exciting few days here coming up. We'll be back tomorrow at noon as always. Myself, Mark Carmen, Adam Hogue, Nick Moriano. We'll be talking to you. Got some special guests lined up still here for the next few days. 3 more sleeps until the NFL draft. 3 more sleeps until Caleb Williams is a Chicago Bear. So once again, hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Become a diehard. Come to the draft party. All that fun stuff. Until then, we'll see you tomorrow at noon. Thanks again to Tape Never Lies Network. Thank you all for tuning in to this 2.5-hour marathon of CHGO Bears After Dark. We will see you tomorrow, and always bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.